What's go Oh, look at that. Great way to start off this show, man. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a brand new episode of APlus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys today over on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, you name it, guys. We're certainly everywhere. We got 6 main topics we're going to be breaking down for you guys today, as we're going to get into some big Batman Cape Crusader news as we wind up getting ourselves a first official trailer. We're going to give you guys our thoughts and review on that. We also got some great Marvel Studios news as they plan on going back to San Diego Comic-Con this year, and we have our very first look at Agatha all along, plus a couple of other fantastic topics that we're going to get into today, guys. So sit back, relax, and we'll see you on the other side. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a brand new episode of APlus Hero Report, live for you guys today, wherever you guys certainly may be watching us from. We certainly appreciate you guys coming through. Stuart, it's good to see you here, buddy, man. Appreciate you joining us today. How's it going?
Going really good. It just occurred to me, like as you were talking about the topics we're going to be going over, I think this is the first hero report where I haven't even looked at what we're going to be talking about. So,
hey,
yeah.
Surprise!
So everything will be a surprise for me.
Yeah, everything will be a surprise today. Yeah, I did send you the articles last night, so hopefully this will give you a fresh glimpse into what we're going to talk about today. If you haven't had the opportunity to check out Cape Crusader trailer, don't worry. We probably will be watching it together. I did watch it once or twice earlier in the week, but that was earlier in the week. So a nice little refresher course for me will probably happen here. But how's your weekend been so far, man?
It's been good. Pretty chill work weekend compared to last weekend with Inside Out, being sold out in every theater. So now we have Kinds of Kindness and A Quiet Place. Surprisingly, A Quiet Place is not doing very good at our theater, at least. I don't know how it's doing at other theaters, but I would have thought if there's ever a movie that you want to see in theater, it'd be a movie that's part of the Quiet Place franchise.
Yeah, I definitely want to go ahead and see it in theaters. Maybe me and the girlfriend will go check it out later on tonight. We'll see. We don't have kiddo this afternoon. He may be staying at his grandma's house tonight, so maybe if anything, this is an opportunity for us to go and do something as a couple. It's been a minute, so we definitely need our mom and dad time for sure. But no, that's definitely a movie I want to see in theaters. I've heard some pretty good things about it. I think it got like a C+ cinema score so far, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Inside Out 2, I think I just read an article today that it's crossed $1 billion already worldwide. Oh, wow. I don't know how long ago did that come out. Was that last week's?
I think it's been out in theaters. I think this is the third weekend it's been out in theaters.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Nice. So yeah, incredible stuff. I guess it shouldn't come as a surprise though. Inside Out, the first one, I thought did pretty good numbers. And I think anybody's probably trying to find, especially during the summertime when kids are out for school, trying to find a nice little family friendly movie. So it certainly shouldn't surprise me after the success that the first one had. But maybe Inside Out 2 is also another one I got to put on my list to certainly go see. But yeah, man, I'm excited. Hopefully the box office continues to do big numbers this summer. We got Deadpool and Wolverine. That's right around the block, man. You think we got another $1 billion movie on our hands, too?
I hope so. There's a lot of hype behind it. A lot of my coworkers who are saying that, they're done with Marvel movies are looking forward to this movie. So, I think it'll appeal to everyone who loves Marvel and everyone who, doesn't like Marvel, then people who don't care. I think people who don't care are just going to look at the trailer and say, hey, this just looks like a fun movie.
Yeah, it does look like a fun movie. A great soundtrack, great chemistry between these two actors on here. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, man, we'll see who's in our live chat with us. Real quick, for those of you who are watching us over on Instagram today, just to give you a heads up, I think Instagram only shows about an hour of us being live. So if you do want to join the show after an hour, because our show could run anywhere between 2.5 hours to almost 3 hours. But after the first hour, if you're watching us on Instagram, if you want to go ahead and check us out over on YouTube, check us out at APlus Hero Report. And we definitely would love to have your company here today. Who's in our live chat with us today? We got Enrique Perez. What's going on, Enrique? This is just saw the official new trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine with the reveal of the villain. Yeah, they did drop a brand new little bit of I don't know if it's like a final trailer, but they definitely showcased a Fox Marvel character in Sabretooth popping up in here. I think we had an idea that he was probably going to be in this movie a little bit, a lot of Fox characters, but he definitely was pretty prevalent in this trailer. Did you get a chance to see it, Stu?
No, I'm actually going out of my way to avoid the new Deadpool and Wolverine trailers. Only
Yeah,
because
really.
like I know there's going to be some surprise cameos, and they're not going to be as fun if I see them coming. You know, especially if they're going to be like those cameos that don't actually have like a part in the movie. They're just there for appearances. I'd rather be surprised by those.
Yeah, I know that they have said Taylor Swift is not in this movie, but I am still hoping that she is,
Yeah.
because I do think Dazzler, like of all the cameos that she could make, her as Dazzler, I think would be pretty fantastic. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing who they have in this movie. We said Disney Plus is going to release the final episodes of Star Wars: The Acolyte in July, plus the sing-along versions of Disney's Descendants 1, 2, and 3, plus the fourth film of Rise of Red. Is there more to
Rise
that?
of Red. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I never heard of that either. For a second, then when I was reading it, I thought plus sing-along versions. I thought they meant of the Acolyte. I was like, really? I don't think we have that
Yeah,
that
episodes
Disney
6,
remix yet.
7, and 8 are all going to be musical episodes, so they'll release sing-alongs. That's something that the Star Wars franchise has, needed for a long time. They've needed
Yeah, they
like
don't
a
have a
musical
musical
episode.
episode, do they?
No, I don't think
Man,
so.
yeah, fanboys would go ape shit for
Oh yeah.
sure.
I mean,
uh,
Star Trek's done it now, so it's only a matter of time before Star
so
Wars, jumps that shark.
I'll tell you, it's only a matter of time. Enrique, Marcelina, what's up, Marcelina? Appreciate you coming through. Says we got multiple
Yeah,
castings
I
for
saw
One
those.
Piece Netflix season 2. That dropped today?
No, it dropped a little earlier this week. I can't remember everyone who was casted in it, but they did have the actor that played Batwing from Batwoman. He's going to be in it. I'm
Nice.
not familiar with any of the One Piece characters because I never read the manga. But yeah, he is playing like a character from the manga that a lot of fans like. So that'll be cool to see.
Yeah, very cool, man. Very cool. We'll see what season 2 is going to be. It looks like they're getting just building on the success of season 1 for sure. They got some. I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago that they were bringing in one of the co-showrunners. I thought of Percy Jackson and the Olympians to go ahead and do season 2 or help them out with season 2. So just getting better, if you ask me. So we'll see what season 2 turns out to be.
Yeah, I'm excited. I loved season 1.
But yeah, wherever you guys are watching this at, man, do us a big favor. If you haven't hit that like button yet, please go ahead and do so. Share these videos, hit that retweet button, especially if you're watching us over on Twitter. We got 6 main topics we're going to be breaking down for you guys today. We're going to kick off with honorable mentions and then get to our main topics. And then, of course, wrapping up with live viewer questions at the end of the show. We got Blossom in the house. What's going on, Blossom? It's good to always see you around here. Appreciate seeing some of our reliables. Most of the new cast will at most appear in 1 or 2 episodes, but they are that minor of characters. Okay. So,
Okay.
but Stu, let's go ahead and kick off this show, man, with our first segment of the day. Are you ready, buddy?
I am.
And we got our honorable mentions that we're going to get into. For those of you who are not familiar when it comes to honorable mentions, these are topics that didn't quite make the cut, but we definitely felt that you deserve to certainly know about some of the news that was going around today or this week in general. Keep you up to date as much as we possibly can. Stuart, I know you didn't really come in today knowing what the topics were. Did you have an honorable mention by any chance?
Honestly, no, because I actually did look for honorable mentions or for something, but there just hasn't really been that much in terms of like news that we really cover. There was that one horror movie that premiered Thursday evening. I'm sure that you saw it. It was live. It was really more of a horror comedy. I'm referring to the debate.
You're referring to what?
The debate.
Oh, oh god,
Yeah,
it was
it's a horror comedy,
yeah, it was really bad. It was really bad. I had to turn
Yeah.
it off halfway through, man. It was brutal to watch.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was bad. Anyway, let's get into our honorable mentions, man. First off, for those of you who don't know, the Karate Kid is in the news this week, man. According to comingsoon.net, franchise star Ralph Macchio confirmed on a social media account this week that filming has officially wrapped. I think he wind up spoiling us a little bit with this cast photo of everybody here. But it is in fact scheduled to release May 30th of 2025. But the new Karate Kid movie has officially been completed, and it's now set to go ahead and go into post-production. There was another photo Ralph Macchio wind up dropping. I don't think I picked it up, but yeah, it looks like it's going to be on the tail end of the season 6 of Cobra Kai finale. For those of you who don't remember, Cobra Kai is going to be breaking up into 3 parts. The first part dropping July 18th, the last part sometime in 2025. And then we're expected to get this brand new Karate Kid movie May 30th of this year. So on to post-production for this film as Jonathan Entwistle has filmed wrapping for it. I'm really excited for this, Stu. I can't remember if this was one of my most anticipated movies of 2024, thinking that it was going to be dropping in time for Christmas, the holiday season. I think that's what the initial plan was. And then we heard a couple months ago that they were going to be pushing the movie scheduling wise, probably to benefit the release of the last season of Cobra Kai. But are you looking forward to this one, Stu?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm like super hyped for it, but I'll definitely be watching it, when it comes out. And honestly, I'm not even worried if it's going to be good or bad, because even if it's bad, at least we had Cobra Kai. I think the big thing I'm just curious about is whether or not they're going to address the continuity of Cobra Kai in the movie, or if it'll be completely ignored, or if they're just not like I feel like it's going to go one of two ways. They're either going to like straight up say from the beginning of the movie that Cobra Kai is not canon, or two, they're not going to mention anything in Cobra Kai, but they're not necessarily going to say it isn't canon. They're just not going to address it one way or the other. I feel like it's going to go one of those two ways.
I get you. Yeah, this is probably me thinking too far ahead, but there is a part of me that really wants to see Jolo Maraduena pop up in this movie. Maybe not as a big role, but just like as a brief cameo to introduce himself or something like that. I think that would be pretty great. I don't know what he's doing outside of Blue Beetle right now, but I would love to have his appearance in here. But I'm not going to hold my breath. Just something I personally would like to see, though.
Same.
Next up, I don't have an image for this, but Giancarlo Esposito, excuse me, recently is going to be doing reshoots for Captain America 4. I believe his time on set is already completed, if I'm not mistaken. I literally just saw this man at Fan Expo Dallas like 2 weeks ago. So the fact that he was able to do his shooting and still make it to the convention out here in Dallas, I thought was pretty impressive. He did have some words this week. He was talking with Deadline about his character, his original character here in Captain America 4. And this is what Esposito says. He says, in my other life, I'm a real badass. And you've seen me play a little bit of that intellectually as Gus Fring. But when you see me in the MCU, you're going to see a badass. And I'm excited for that. It does say Esposito continues to reveal the physicality he has to bring into his MCU role. And he says, acting is using every part of your body, your emotions, your senses, your feelings to portray something. But you haven't seen me use my body in a way that I'll be using it, is what he says in here.
Phrasing.
What'd you say?
I said phrasing.
Yeah, it's yeah, for real. This just continues to get me more intrigued as to like who he's playing, what his role is going to be, how big of a role is he planning on having within the MCU. And while we definitely have seen him be active in something like The Mandalorian and some of his battles, one, I am always kind of curious as to like how much of that is Esposito, how much of that is CGI face over stunt person's body. How physical are we going to see him in this movie? Like, I don't even know how old Esposito is, but I'm just thinking to myself, like, is he literally going to go like toe to toe with Anthony Mackie, like, or is he referring to his level of physicality coming in a completely different form or shape? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to read into it. What do you take away from it though?
Uh man, this is gonna make me sound ageist, so I really hope no one takes this the wrong way. I don't see him doing any of his own stunts personally. I don't think he. I could be wrong though. I mean, if he proves me
How
wrong
dare
here,
you doubt this man?
if he proves me wrong, awesome. That would be really cool if he proves me wrong. But I'm kind of assuming like what you said, like most of the physicality we'll see on him if he is, which it sounds like he's going to be playing more of an intimidating character who's more intimidating because he's like physically strong rather than intellectually strong like his usual kind of villains that he's played in the past. So I'm going to assume that he'll definitely play it off like as intimidating when we actually see his face, but for the most part, when it comes to seeing what he can do, it'll be mostly stunt doubles with his face CG'd on them.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling too. Is a bunch of CGI putting his face on a stunt double, but we'll see. We'll see. We also have news when it comes to Andor. Apparently, according to the playlist.com or the playlist.net this week, they had an exclusive that says Ben Mendelsohn is set to reprise his role as Orson Krennic in season 2 of Andor. It does say here, he said, so far, fans have received unfortunate news from the past from Ben Mendelsohn. He says, this, I don't know when, he says earlier this year, this is what he said. He says, as for being contacted by Lucasfilm for a new project, I can tell you that no, I have not been approached for something like this. He said around the time Andor season 2 was already into production, leading many to presume that it wasn't happening. He says, however, Diego Luna said this past weekend at the Ace Superhero Comic-Con 2024 that Andor suggested we might see some familiar Rogue One faces in season 2. This is what he said. He says, I can tell you Rogue One is coming. So there will be characters that you will recognize. There will be cool stuff. For those of you who love Rogue One, this season is going to be very special. And then they say, and we're happy to report that Ben Mendelsohn, in fact, will be back for season 2, likely sometime near the end of the season. So it looks as though Diego Luna confirms characters from Rogue One will be in it, but then the playlist.net seems to be also confirming that they are happy to report that Ben Mendelsohn will in fact be returning. So maybe they clearly know something that we don't. If this does come out to be true, are you pumped for that?
Yes, very much so. I see this being one of two explanations. Explanation number one, they may not have had him at the beginning of the season, but then decided like later on to kind of make a slight rewrite. Like maybe there was a character who they thought, oh, hey, what if this character was actually oh damn, I totally forgot his name from the movie. Krennic, right? Yeah,
Krennic, yeah, Orson Krennic.
Orson Krennic. They may have at the last minute decided, hey, this character would actually make more sense if it was Orson Krennic. So they may have done a last minute rewrite and reshoot and that kind of thing. Or he's probably been involved with season 2 from the beginning, but he's just been hiding it. And it might have been that Diego Luna didn't know that that was still meant to be a secret or something like that. So personally, I hope it's true, because I really like his character in Rogue One, and it'll be really cool seeing him in a show like Andor, where because like even though Rogue One he took his role pretty seriously in that, there was still a bit of his campiness that he always brings to his villain roles. I don't see that being in a show like Andor, so it'd be kind of cool to see him the same character but played a little more a little less campy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think you might be right. I mean, because I can easily see this having to have been something that they wanted to really keep close to the vest, and maybe not necessarily bring him in until maybe the final episodes, and as they're getting closer to kind of wrapping things up. So I could easily see him coming in kind of late to the party. And it's so funny. I think Alan Tudyk was on stage too at Fan Expo Dallas, and they tried to get him to confirm if he was going to be in season 2 as his droid, and he wouldn't budge. He wouldn't budge. I think he was looking out for Lucasfilm snipers.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't he? Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he voice the same type of droid in season 1? Because I know those droids were in season 1. I just don't know if
Oh,
they were voiced by him.
I can't remember if he voiced them or not. Honestly, I can't remember. Marcelino says, I'm fully confident that Ben Mendelsohn returning for Andor will be better than him returning as Talos in Secret Invasion.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And he gets to work with Tony Gilroy again. So I'm sure that was probably a pretty good time for them for sure. So we'll see what Andor season 2 turns out to be, but I'm really excited for it. Another honorable mention, Scarlett Johansson is back in the news. Stuart, I was really surprised. I mentioned this when Scarlett Johansson was cast in this movie. I remember saying to myself, like, I can't believe that they got her to be in a Jurassic World movie. Like, when I think of Scarlett Johansson, I just don't imagine her being in sort of like these summer-esque kind of dinosaur blockbuster type films. Like, I feel like she probably picks her movies she probably has a way of picking certain movies that she certainly attaches herself to. So I was really surprised that she wound up joining. And then we got Mahershala Ali, that we know is no slouch when it comes to picking certain movies for himself to kind of be attached to. And so I really wanted to know, like, what was it about Jurassic World that made Scarlett Johansson want to join? And it says she actually wind up talking to comicbook.com, and this is what it says. It says, speaking of comic book at press junket, Scarlett Johansson confirmed her casting in the next Jurassic installment. She says, everything, Johansson responded when asked about the new Jurassic project. What about the new Jurassic project made her want to return to the to franchise films? And she said everything. She says, I'm an enormous Jurassic Park fan. It's one of the first films I remember seeing in theater. I remember seeing it so vividly. It was like life changing. It was mind blowing. I can't express how excited I am. She does go on to say the script is so incredible. David Cope wrote it. He returned after like 30 years to write the script. He's so passionate about it, which is awesome. And we talked about the idea that David Cope was coming back to be the writer of this. For those of you who don't know, he wrote the first Jurassic Park movie along with The Lost World, the sequel as well. And so when she says the script is so incredible, Stuart, I am bound to believe that this is not just hyperbole. I mean, if you got Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali, okay, to join Jurassic World, you gotta have a fire script. I can't even imagine this being like a simple cash grab and popcorn flick. There's got to be something here to the script that is able to attract both of these stars. And she says it's incredible. Do you believe her, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, from everything I'm hearing from her and Mahershala Ali, yeah, I'm kind of going into this one with a little more optimism than I've had for the franchise in the last couple of movies. So, yeah, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I think the fact of them bringing back somebody with a track record like David Cope, I think, is a smart move on their behalf. And the fact that they're able to land some people like this, yeah, man, I'm really excited to see what they create here. And then last but not least, Stu, we got to spend some time on this one, buddy.
Set photos.
We got some Superman set photos, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and actually make this part of our main topics. But I had some other things I definitely wanted us to highlight a little bit more. But we're going to dive into it, man. As we got some Superman set photos, I did meticulously pick out certain ones that I wanted to certainly go ahead and show. I didn't necessarily want to show everything. If you guys want to go ahead and look out for your own Superman set photos, feel free to go ahead and do so. JustJared.com is a great source for your Superman set photos. This is where I got a lot of these from. So shout out to Just Jared. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well. But let's go through some of these, man. This was the very first brand new photo that wind up dropping earlier this week before we wind up getting just a barrage on set. It looks like they're either in Metropolis, in some big city here, but we get to see the actor Eddie Gathegi, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, as Mr. Terrific here. And of course, David Cornsweet with a brand new look. He's not sitting down, Stu. He's actually walking around, not putting on his boots anymore. But I think we get the opportunity to see just how bright the color scheme is here for Superman's costume. I think you've mentioned the idea that you're not necessarily the biggest fan of either the collar look or how his cape fits. We get to see his not necessarily just like underwear anymore. It's more like trunks or boxers in regards to his new design. What are your thoughts in some of these? And we'll kind of skim through these if you haven't seen them yourself. But first glimpses when you see this.
Let me first say that the color looks amazing in this. Like, I love how it just pops. Like, we're not even seeing this with the movie with like any visual effects to aid it or anything, and already the colors just really stand out in like such a great way. So I can only imagine how much cooler it's going to look when they have like kind of the VFX in the background to like smooth out the edges. I'm sure, because like the one thing that I've heard people like complaining about is how it looks a little baggy on him. Like, there's definitely a lot of room in there. But I think that'll definitely be fixed in post-production. I think they just did that to make the actor more comfortable. So it also makes me think that my complaint, which is that him wearing him wearing like, trunks when he's not wearing tights, didn't really make sense. But I also think that's another thing they could easily fix in post-production to make it look more like the material look more like he's wearing tights. Especially with like, sorry, not to get raunchy here, especially with that bulge that they're showing there. That bulge only makes sense if he's wearing tights. I'm just going to say that. So I'm sure that'll be kind of like, what they smooth out in post-production. I'm really excited to see what it's going to look like in that first trailer. The collar looks so much better. I did not like the collar in that first photo. I don't know if they changed it or if it's just a better angle, but I don't mind the collar here. It looks a lot better. The thing that I still do have to complain about is I'm still not a fan of where the cape goes into the suit, but that's just me personally. I'm sure there's plenty of other people that don't mind it, but that's my one gripe about it, is I don't like where the cape goes into the suit. Everything else about the suit I'm absolutely loving, and holy crap, David looks like super handsome as Superman. I am really excited to see like the first trailer for this.
Yeah, I'm right with you, man. I'm really excited to kind of see the first trailer for this. I would agree. I think the suit looks a little big on him, but I almost think that's maybe on purpose. Maybe something that they can kind of go ahead and certainly fix in post production. Even if they don't, though, I am kind of curious to see how it's going to look the rest of the way throughout the entirety of the movie. Like, it's one of those things where, like, when I think of Superman, I don't know why I've always had Superman wearing his costume under his everyday clothes, so he can easily like just open up his shirt, and fly off, sort of thing. This definitely feels something like he's got to get into. And I do think even when we get to see something like the very first image that James Gunn showed us of him putting on his boots, that very much certainly is the mentality here. So this feels more like a suit than actually like an alien sort of like costume or something that's supposed to be like just clung to his body super tight, So I don't have a problem with people that maybe like the Henry Cavill suit or felt like Henry Cavill filled out his suit a little bit better. Because even like, I don't think Henry Cavill needed any post-production VFX works on his, maybe like just some grading color wise or whatever the case may be. I still think David looks swole in this costume. Like, he looks like he's a pretty big dude already. He looks pretty swole in this costume. So it just shows me how big the actual costume itself really is. But I think it just goes to show, I guess the word I would be looking for is like his girth, just how like thick he is. But I do think he looks great in his costume. I mean, I've seen some images of him as Clark Kent now also. I don't know how I feel about the hairstyle for him. It looks a little bit more disheveled, but you can clearly see like it's day and night between his Clark and his Superman. So like for me, it makes me feel like James Gunn is definitely going the route of two kind of really unique personalities for both characters that I'm kind of fascinated to see David wind up bringing to life here.
I'll get to my thoughts of Clark Kent in a moment, but first, I got to give a shout out to Blossom sending us another super chat. Thank you
Appreciate it,
so very
Blossom.
much.
I'm trying to see. You said you had other thoughts too?
Oh, First, the way Superman looking straight out of the cartoons from my childhood. I mean, holy macaroni. Yeah, definitely agree. Especially, I think it's just the colors that really just make him pop like he does in the comic books. But yeah, like with his Clark Kent, I do think that my only complaint with the hair, and I'm sure again, post production will probably look better. It just looks like a really bad wig. Is my
It's
problem.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I like the fact
yeah.
that James Gunn is trying to make it like very different from Superman, whereas like before, you have the fact that Clark Kent always has his hair neat. It's just not in the same shape as Superman, but it's still very neat all the time. So here I like the idea of like Clark Kent's hair. It looks like he just got straight out of bed and just went to work without like taking a shower. It's like I like that because that it makes more sense now how no one would be able to piece together that Clark Kent is Superman. So I like that. I just think the wig itself looks very fake. And again,
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll look better in post.
I hope so. Cause yeah, when I saw the images, I was like, oh, I don't know if it looks his hair looks odd for sure.
Yeah.
Blossom said, Swole doesn't begin to cover it. Okay. Okay, Blossom. I'm glad you're enjoying it. They also did drop these other photos as we get to see the engineer in play also here. It looks like they're escorting Superman. I think the side profile too, I think is a great look here for David as Superman too. It just shows you how big this dude really is next to everybody else. But we do get to see the character, the engineer beside him as they're escorting him as well. We also did get some another shot of his cape, the back of his cape going with the full yellow emblem on here. I really dig this the cape look on him also. What do you think about Eddie as Mr. Terrific? I'm not feeling the hairstyle, bro. Like I
Really?
feel like we're going, yeah, I feel like we're going Dolomite, Shaft sort of days. I'm not feeling the haircut, man. I kind of wish it was a little bit close cut. So it kind of makes me wonder the personality traits that they're trying to give Mr. Terrific here. Like I hope it's not on the nose and James Gunn goes crazy with like I hope it is truly from the comic book and this guy's just all intelligence, not trying to crack any jokes sort of thing. I don't need like a Samuel L. Jackson, that's a bad mother. Shut your mouth. Like I don't those are just the vibes I get from his haircut. And I hope that's not where we're going here. But outside of that, comic book accurate, man, if you ask me.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, the hair to me looks, I think it looks awesome. I didn't get that vibe from it at all. I just think it looks like tidy, but the costume itself, I absolutely love it. So I wanted to compare this to the Arrowverse costume because they look so similar
Mm,
in that they both look like there's ripped straight out of the comic book. And something I didn't expect is this one actually looks a little simpler than the Arrowverse version of Mr. Terrific. There aren't too many changes. Like they both look very comic book accurate, but there's like some small things with the patterns, especially on the arms. But I think I like that this one plays it a little more simple. And then also the fact that TV budget, so you can definitely tell with the Arrowverse version of the character. The material definitely looks like cheaper, probably fake leather, like more plastic than leather. Whereas here it's just straight up leather, and it's such a cool jacket because it's something that works for a superhero costume, but also works as something like you could just see someone wearing outside of the costume as well.
uh-huh.
And yeah, so I just everything about his look works for me.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the look for sure. We also did get some side characters. Most importantly, good old Rachel Brosnahan on set as Lois Lane, as we get to see the two of them side by side here. There's another great shot of them smiling together. I think I have on here also. They make a great pairing, man. They really do. Rachel Brosnahan is just incredible. So I'm glad that she finally got this role. We also get a glimpse as to Miss Tessmacher from here. We also got our first look at Jimmy Olsen. It looks like they're exiting. When I look at this feels like a space shuttle or something like that. Um, Perry White exiting this craft along with Lois Lane. This almost looks like the top half of like a NASA space shuttle, like from outer space being sent, shot back down to Earth or something like that. Maybe it's something Superman had to save them from falling. I'm not sure what to read into what this is that they're exiting, but they're all together here. Perry, Jimmy, and Lois.
The color pattern makes me think it might be like kind of a like a T-sphere like ship from Mr. Terrific. Like maybe they were
Oh,
there to do a report on it, but then of course something
maybe.
goes wrong, and that's them exiting after something goes wrong, and that's why there's
Uh-huh.
debris everywhere.
I could see that.
Um, so something that makes me curious. Sorry, this is slightly unrelated to that. But we see a bunch of military officers, all with cameras on their helmets, and usually in movies, when you see that, it means you're going to get some pretty cool FPS we
Mm,
might see these guys all getting killed off one by one in first person, whether it's from like an evil Superman, which is probably why they're arresting him, or something else. I really hope that there's a reason they have the cameras on the helmet, and it's leading up to like what could be like, because I always love those scenes in movies when it's like a horror scene of each person
oh,
dying
yeah.
off one by one, and you see it in their perspective to really give you like that extra fear to it. So there's that. But yeah, I think that looks like a T-sphere if I had to guess of what they're exiting. And
What the
it's
heck?
the only explanation I can come up with as to why a bunch of reporters are inside of it.
Yeah, no, you might be onto something with that one, man. You might be onto something there. But yeah, I think these look absolutely great. Marcelino did say, he says, I heard a lot of criticism saying that the suit looks cheap and cosplay, and that CW does better costumes. I mean, while I do like the Superman costume for Tyler, um, I think material wise and production wise, this looks like a heavier quality suit than what Tyler certainly wears. When I think of what Tyler wears, and this is no disrespect to the costume crew, but it that almost looks that almost looks more cosplay to me in the sense, because that it feels like it has like the muscles painted on,
Mhm.
or spray painted on. Like I could buy that and rock that to a convention, and people would think that I'm ripped, just because of the design of the suit itself. But look, everybody's gonna have a criticism in regards to it. If people don't like it, I don't blame them. I mean, I can see why they may not, because it looks a little bit big on him, but I would always say, again, this is not the final result. It's meant to be seen in live action, in movement, on the big screen. So we'll see how it looks, but I do think they'll clean up any issues that they might have in post production. He says the
Yeah.
only thing I don't like about the suit are the trunks. I never liked the trunks, and some of the lines are too evident. Yeah, I can understand that.
I don't hate the lines. I just don't understand the point of them.
Yeah, I mean, this just feels very much like New 52 Superman costume to me. I never really understood the point of the lines from an artist perspective in regards to the design of the suit itself. But who knows? Maybe they'll explain it a little bit more. Maybe there's a a tech thing about it that Mr. Terrific will explain. Like I'm curious who created his suit, because it definitely wasn't Martha. There's no way Martha's
Yeah.
sewing this suit together.
It looks earth made. I mean, assuming it's going to look similar to this, like in the actual movie, it doesn't look like it's made from alien material like you had with Henry Cavill's suit. So I'm assuming it could be someone like Mr. Terrific that made it for him, which I could totally see.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see. Maybe this isn't even his first suit. Maybe it's upgraded after so many years, since he's already been an established hero.
Mhm.
But let us know your guys' thoughts, man. What do you guys think about all these fantastic Superman set photos? Has it gotten your hype level even more for what is certainly to come when it comes to James Gunn's DCU? What are some things you love about it? Some things you're not a big fan of? But again, I would certainly say let's hold our final judgment until we actually see it in action, whether that be trailer or the movie itself. But yeah, I'm pumped for it. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And Stu, with that out of the way, you ready to tackle these main topics with me, man?
Always.
Let's go ahead and get into this and kick off this show, ladies and gentlemen. Again, wherever you're watching, we got 18 viewers here today, 14 over on Twitter, 4 over on YouTube. Look, if you're in YouTube, man, hit that like button. Definitely does certainly go a long way for us. Certainly helps. We had a couple people join us over on Instagram. Misha was in the house. Matthew, FH Wood. What's up, guys? They said David Clark is growing on me, kind of frumpy and way different from his Superman side. I like the term frumpy. I'm glad he used that. Rachel as Lois, he says that purple is great on her. Tyler's suit looks consistently dirty. I guess talking about the CW suit for Tyler. Yeah. So yeah, appreciate the comments. FH Wood, appreciate that. It does look kind of dirty. I'm not gonna lie. Man's always in action. What can you say? But all right, let's go ahead and get into our main topics for the day, as we're going to start off getting into our Batman Cape Crusader bag. You know, last week, Stuart, we talked a little bit about the voice casting as we got the opportunity to see who was going to be joining the ranks of this new animated series set to go ahead and drop over on Prime Video August 1st. We're going to be having the brand new series, so it's going to be here within about a month or so. So I'm really looking forward to it. They did release this brand new poster as well, which I think looks great. And accompanying that poster, they wind up giving us a brand new trailer. And what I will say about the trailer, Stu, before we go ahead and dive in, this gives us another glimpse at the new voice actor for Batman. I do know that when we first heard him making the announcements for the voice cast and the reveal, you know, we felt very kind of on the fence about it, in the sense of, you know, kind of leaving it up to a wait and see. And so I found the trailer fascinating in regards to giving this guy a second opportunity and hearing what he sounds like. And I would like to know your thoughts on it as well. So I think this is going to be your first time watching the trailer itself. I've seen it already, but I do want to go ahead and watch it again. And then we're going to give you guys our thoughts on the Batman Cape Crusader trailer. And if you want to check it out for yourself, it is currently up on our Facebook page. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and bring this up. Make sure we're both, you can both see us both here. Can I make this even larger? If I do full screen, will that go? Yes. Okay, perfect. Let's go. And let me know if you can hear it, Stu.
Asking the question on everyone's mind these days, what do you think about the Batman?
I'm frightened. This whole city's gone to hell in a handbasket.
Well, he's breaking the law, ain't he? So they ought to catch that freak and lock him up.
I won't say it's gonna be easy, but catching criminals is what we do. So this one dresses up like Dracula, so what? We're gonna take him down. What do we know about this Batman?
He's been beating the tar out of muggers and dope peddlers out there the last few weeks.
He's mostly been seen at night driving that hot rod of his 100 miles an hour.
And now he's even attacking our brave police.
Nice car.
This man is not a hero, he's a criminal. And his time in Gotham is up.
Damn.
Mischief afoot, sir?
3 explosions in 2 weeks. Peculiar. There's something more going on here.
He knows too much. He's an itch that needs to get scratched.
Oh, that's cool.
The Kings don't run this court anymore. The Jester does.
Bang!
I like her voice.
We could be looking at
An all-out gang war on the streets of Gotham.
This is a losing battle. 100 other monsters will show up to replace anyone
Ooh.
you take down.
Probably. But now they'll all know I'm coming for them.
Oh. Woo. Boy.
Okay, I was wrong. I have seen that trailer.
Oh, you did see it? Okay.
Yeah, for some reason I was thinking it was a new trailer that was out, but yes, I saw that trailer. Chills, absolute chills. You know, like you mentioned, I was kind of hesitant on the voice actor for Batman, but hearing him in this trailer, yeah, no, he nails it in like this version of the Batman that he's bringing to the table. Visually, I love how it's the art style from the original Batman of the animated series without being a direct copy. They still have like new designs for a lot of the characters, so it doesn't feel like you're just taking like the established art style, or sorry, the established designs and just rewriting it for something different. It's like, no, you're just taking that art style, but you're giving your own like design for each of the characters, which I really love. I also, I mentioned this before. I love that this is now taking place in like a noir 1930s, 1940s setting. I loved kind of that reveal of Harley Quinn, like kind of coming from the shadows and being like, the Kings don't run this, the Jesters do. The dialogue sounds awesome. I mean, you have, the fact that the cops don't see him as like a hero. They see him as just like a vigilante. And they even mentioning him, beating up cops, which kind of implies that there's going to be some police corruption in Gotham. Or maybe Batman himself isn't perfect. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out too. God, what else? There was just so much in that trailer that just I love. I love how many villains we're getting, from Batman's gallery. Like I noticed Scarecrow, Clayface, Harvey Dent, the Penguin, and even from Green Arrow and the most recent season of Superman and Lois, we have onomatopoeia, but it looks like he's more comic book accurate because you see him just like holding his finger up to the camera, going bang. Like that was pretty funny as well. And yeah, I think that kind of covers everything. Like everything about this gets me excited. And of course, the fact that it's Bruce Timm behind the whole thing. And, I'm not going to say that Bruce Timm can do no wrong, because let's face it, he did that Harley Quinn movie that was pretty bad, if you ask my opinion. But he's also, look at what he's built, like with Batman the Animated Series, Justice League, that entire DC animated universe. So I look forward to seeing what he can do now, especially now with all this experience under his belt, and now with being able to make a cartoon that's like more geared towards adults.
Yeah, man, I 100% agree with everything you said there. It's funny. I watched this trailer, I heard the Batman voice, and I just thought, that's Batman. Like any issues that I had with how he was doing the reveal for the voice cast, and I think we might even mention that, like, maybe it's just the idea of him revealing names. We just don't know, like, the way that he's doing it. But when we actually get the series and we hear the dialogue, it certainly might hit a little bit differently, and it hit differently in this trailer. He seems like he just fits right into there with the rest of the other incredible voice actors that have voiced Batman in the past before. So I think this trailer is a big win. I was a really big fan of it. I do like the seriousness of it. Like the idea that you mentioned, the Gotham PD clearly looking at Batman a certain type of way, right? Like they're not necessarily on his side yet. Like this isn't a situation of like, Gordon teaming up with Batman and him reassuring Gotham PD that he's on our side. This feels very much like, I don't even know where Gordon plays into all this, if he does, but this definitely plays out in the sense of feeling like a very early version of Batman, to where the cops themselves fear this guy or think that he certainly might be a problem in the long run. I love the idea that you get to see Batman on some murder mysteries, using his technology to go ahead and possibly solve some murders. So when Bruce Timm does say this is very much a grown up animated series, I can really feel it from this trailer. Visually, I thought it looked pretty stunning. I love some of the animation we have in here. Especially the reveals of some of the characters, like Harvey Dent as Two-Face, Clayface with the fist in his face, even the silhouette of like Penguin and whatnot. I thought they did a marvelous job of representing us with so many characters, a lot of side characters in here that are clearly going to be playing an integral role, and a really great voice cast. Seeing Harley Quinn, like you said, emerge from the shadows, I thought Jamie Chung sounds incredible as Harley Quinn from just a small snippet that I wind up hearing. But yeah, I think if anything, it's the voice of the gentleman that's going to be playing the Batman that really sold me on this. And so, like you mentioned, when you got somebody like Bruce Timm, that's now officially working alongside J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves as executive producers and helping kind of bring this to life. Man, I can't wait for August 1st to get here. I think this is going to be a pretty special animated series. I would assume that they're dropping them all at once, if anything. So maybe this is something we could binge and give you guys our season 1 review of. But I'm even more excited for it now that we got the opportunity to see it for ourselves.
The way Amazon has done it in the past is they'll either release like the first half and it'll be 1 episode a week, and then like 10 months in between like each half of the season, or they may take the boys route where they release the first 3 episodes and then the rest of the season is released 1 episode a week.
Yeah, that could be how we certainly might get it. I'm okay if they decided to do it, like you said, a chunk at first and then weekly. But it's animation, so maybe it is something that they decide to do all at once. Is that how they did Invincible?
I think Invincible, because they only had 8 episodes and they released like the first 4 and then the next 4 months apart, I think it was weekly.
Gotcha. Okay. But let us know how you guys would certainly like to see the release for Caped Crusader. What did you guys think of this particular trailer? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. But yeah, man, I'm definitely hyped for this.
Something I'm curious about. I don't think they've talked about it yet. I'm curious on the runtime for each individual episode, because we're so used to like animated shows being like 22 minutes long, but we've seen with Invincible, they're not afraid. Amazon itself isn't afraid to go to like TV length for each episode. So I'm curious if they'll do like 40-minute episodes.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it's not just your traditional 25 30-minute episode for animation. I really do hope that they dive into it, especially if it's going to be a little bit more adult themed. So I would definitely be down for that. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below for Batman Caped Crusader. What did you guys think of the official trailer? Let us know your thoughts. And with that out of the way, Stu, we will go ahead and continue to hang out in the DC world here. This time changing gears to the DCU. As we've been talking a little bit about what James Gunn is creating in regards to Green Lantern. Now, we did wind up having a couple of writing announcements a couple of weeks ago, as Damon Lindelof along with Tom King are in fact set to go ahead and be the writers for this upcoming season. There's also another gentleman that's I'm missing his name off the top of my head, that's coming together to go ahead and be the writers for this show. But things are coming along pretty quickly, Stu, and it would not surprise me within the next week or two, or maybe it's something that is right around the corner at San Diego Comic-Con, if DC is going to have any presence at the convention. But I would not be surprised if we start hearing about casting coming along relatively soon, because according to the Hollywood Reporter, the show Lanterns has officially been picked up. It looks as though, according to the Hollywood Reporter, it says the Green Lantern series finally a go at HBO. Ozark showrunner Chris Mundy, that's the other gentleman I was talking about. Chris Mundy, Damon Lindelof, and Eisner Award winner Tom King are behind the latest iteration of the DC Comics story. So let's go ahead and get into this article and give you guys all the juicy details. So it says HBO is at long last signing up the Lantern Corps. The premier cable outlet has given a straight to series order for Lanterns based on the long-running Green Lantern characters, specifically Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan from DC Comics. Chris Mundy, who was the previous showrunner for Ozark, will serve as showrunner on the 8-episode drama and co-write the series with Damon Lindelof and Tom King, known for his several works on Batman, Mr. Miracle, and Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow for DC Comics. The green light for Lanterns comes almost 5 years after what was then the HBO Max began developing a Green Lantern series with producer Greg Berlanti. But that unfortunately wind up going to the wayside as James Gunn and Peter Safran wind up taking over. It does say, perhaps not coincidentally, Mundy is coming off of HBO's True Detective Night Country, where he was executive producer and wrote 2 episodes as well. They did say that the 2023 early script, when it was with Greg Berlanti, it says Greg's vision was more of a space opera than he wanted to do. Peter Safran said our version is more true detective, more of a traditional based investigation story. So it makes sense that Chris Mundy, coming off of 2 episodes of True Detective, winds up joining as a part of this as well. It says we're thrilled to bring this seminal DC title to HBO with Chris Mundy and Tom at the helm. Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan are 2 of the DC's most compelling characters, and Lanterns brings them to life in an original detective story that is a foundational part of the unified DCU we're launching next summer with Superman. I guess for me, my next big question is going to be when does filming begin, and when do they have plans on releasing this? It says, as part of James and Peter Safran's vision for the DC universe, this first new live action series will mark an exciting new era. What does that say? It says first new live action series. So considering the fact that we have a Peacemaker season 2 that's coming out, it's like we already have a live action, but I guess maybe this is like one of the more foundational pieces of the DCU, so maybe that's why they're referring to it as that way. What are your thoughts, Stu, on the idea of it being greenlit?
Well, I think the first new is because it's the first like a new, as in like, because Peacemaker already had a first season, so this will be a new live action show that's part of the DC universe. But yeah, everything I'm hearing about it gets me excited. I love who they got to work on it. Again, I think that Tom King, the comic book that I most know him for was Heroes in Crisis. And I still think that was a comic book that had a very weak conclusion, but a very, very strong start and middle. I just think the conclusion really needed to be reworked. So I think that as long as he's working with other writers, I think they can put a really solid story together. And yeah, I do like the idea of like starting out this Green Lantern franchise in kind of a more grounded environment. I'm very curious if, they're going to try to keep it like, family friendly, or if they're actually going to go the true detective route and try to make this like an actual like kind of R-rated edgy show for like an older audience, like with Peacemaker. Very curious what route they're taking in that area. But yeah, everything in that regard gets me excited.
Yeah, man, I'm really pumped for this. I'm glad that they don't have to necessarily go through like ordering a pilot, putting the first episode together and try and figure out like, hey, do you want to pick this up? I feel like when it comes to James Gunn and Peter Safran stuff, though, they're probably going to be all in regardless. Like, I don't know if of a project from them, at least television series wise, where, especially when it's Max and it's owned by Warner Brothers, I think they're fully committed to James Gunn showcasing this particular world. I know a lot of people say, well, maybe if James Gunn's Superman kind of fails, maybe they kind of pull the plug on this. I think that they're definitely going to give James Gunn quite a few chances to kind of turn the tides here. So I definitely do see Lanterns, along with other projects, probably being immediately sort of greenlit without having to worry about a pilot order or anything like that kind of going forward. But, I think James Gunn also knows how to pick out great talent in regards to behind the camera. So when it comes to whoever's going to be directing some of these episodes, who's going to be writing these episodes, I think he's got a very trustworthy crew on board to where, you probably read the first couple of scripts and you're like, yeah, let's just get this whole thing, because this is sounding pretty incredible. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I love the people that are certainly attached to this. I'm a huge Damon Lindelof fan. I love almost everything that this guy touches in regards to television series and stuff and movies. So sign me up, man. I'm glad that this is coming together beautifully. And it does feel like the next step to all this, Stuart, is probably casting announcements. I haven't been following James Gunn very long in regards to how this series is being developed. But I am kind of curious as to whether or not we're going to be having some casting announcements here this summer. What do you think, though?
I hope so. I know that he did say he wasn't going to be casting until scripts were completed. So knowing that the whole series has been picked up, I assume that means they've and with it being a short series, with it only being 6 episodes, I assume that means the script for all 6 episodes have been done, which means they're probably going to be casting now based on the script, like who would fit this role of the script the best. So I think that I don't know when. Like, I want to say by the end of the year, we'll definitely get some casting announcements. I don't want to get my hopes up and say by the end of the summer.
Well, I am hoping that production begins by the end of this year. Personally, I believe Supergirl will probably go into production sometime this fall or winter. I'm there definitely under the impression that she might be the second big DCU movie to wind up hitting. But I think television wise, I would be kind of curious where this would certainly be placed at. Is this something that we get Superman, then we get Lanterns, and then we get a Supergirl movie? I'm really, I think, if anything, going to be fascinated to see like what the timeline period is going to be like when they reveal all of this as far as release dates go. So now that we've got the writers on board, HBO has picked this up. I'm expecting casting announcements and director stuff relatively soon, and hopefully getting ready to do some level of production for this by the end of the year. Because I personally would love to see this like fall or winter of early 2025, or late 2025, or very early 2026. But we'll see. I don't know how long it's going to take them to go through production. If anything, I would say, with this being a terrestrial based story, maybe it's not too heavy handed on the special effects, though. I don't know. What are you expecting?
I'm expecting like really good special effects, but good special effects that'll be used sparingly. If we're going to keep it on Earth, like I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I'm sure we'll see them in the full costume in the first episode. I'm sure that'll be when we get a bunch of special effects in the first episode, but I'm expecting like this to be one of those shows where like maybe episodes 3 through 4, it's very much more dialogue and story driven. And then, for the last 2 episodes is when the special effects come back. If I'm a betting man, I'm assuming that's how they're going to be doing it.
Yeah, I think you might be right. And I think when I think of somebody like Damon Lindelof, I feel like it's almost the best of both worlds here, in the sense that you have somebody like Chris Mundy that's probably really good at like the detective sort of murder aspect of things. But then you bring somebody in like Damon Lindelof that can add sort of that extraterrestrial sort of thinking outside the box sort of concepts, along with Tom King, who is incredible when it comes to just comic book concepts also. And so I think we can get an amalgamation of some really great things here. A little bit of terrestrial, a little bit of extraterrestrial. So I'm hoping it's a really good balance. Because I want to see them use their rings. I want to see some really cool like alien designs in here as well. So I do hope it's a little bit of everything.
Same. As much as I don't mind the idea of having a grounded Green Lantern storyline, if it ends up being a show where we don't see them even put on the suit until like the very last episode, that's where I'm like, oh, okay, come on. I expect a little more than that.
yeah. I definitely, it don't even need to necessarily be the end of the first episode, but I definitely hope that it's not just them in civilian gear the entire time.
Yeah,
for sure. I hope it's not that grounded.
Now here's my question to you, because like I hear arguments on both ends. Do you think that if like, let's say the first couple of villains that they're taking down are like regular people, not aliens, just people, no superpowers, do you think they're going to be the type of heroes that think, I shouldn't use my ring against this? That would just be unfair. Will they take the Power Rangers route of never escalate a fight? Or do you think that, if they are taking on like regular people, they'll just be like, psh, okay, yeah, you're going to jail now because I have you trapped in this little spear.
Yeah, no, I think they're totally going to use their power rings. It may not be over the top, but it's like, boom, handcuffs,
Yeah, exactly.
Boom, tied you up with some rope. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you don't see them like not using the ring because like they think it might not be fair.
Yeah, no, not at all. If you got it to your advantage, definitely use it. I don't think there's a Green Lantern code for that anywhere, if I'm not mistaken.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. But I could easily see it being one of those situations where like they start at the bottom of the pecking order, just human guy that knows information that he shouldn't know, and then his information leads to maybe an alien character that's not super powered but knows more information. Maybe he's working for somebody, and then they get that information and they go to another and they find out it's a bigger extraterrestrial guy that has abilities and powers that they really need to kind of start worrying about. And so I can easily see it becoming that sort of level of escalation, and then definitely having to use your abilities for other things as the season progresses.
Yeah. The number one thing I do expect from this, though, is with this being a mystery series, there's a theory that the first Justice League movie is going to be based on the New Frontier comic book, and I think this will be.
You have been saying that a while. You've been hoping that, I think, right?
I am hoping, honestly. But I think this will be the series that answers that question, whether or not it is.
Nice. Yeah, I think again, this is going to have a pivotal outcome to what we wind up getting for the rest of the DCU in regards to storyline. So this is going to be a very important series for them. Blossom says maybe they can use the Rangers' second rule. Appreciate that.
Yeah, the never escalate a battle.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Green Lantern, the Lantern series, greenlit at HBO Max or Max these days. So no pilot order. It's ready to go. So this series is definitely happening, y'all. But let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, Stu, let's change gears, not so much from the DCU, but over to the MCU, as we got two big stories that we're going to highlight here. One, we're going to dive into an MCU series that we wind up getting teased a couple of months ago in regards to Agatha All Along. We wind up getting the official name title for it, as this has been the title for it for quite some time, I think. I don't remember if this was the first title that wind up being revealed, and then we got a bunch of, I think you put up the wrong banner, Stu.
Oh, my bad.
And then they wind up giving us a bunch of other
all the incorrect ones on purpose, clearly. There we go.
But Agatha All Along is certainly set for us this week. I wanted to talk to you guys because we wind up getting ourselves a brand new first look image from Empire Magazine as they talk to the director and the co-creator of this series. So this is one of the fresh brand new images that we wind up having. The Empire Magazine, the article says Agatha All Along sees the MCU villain gather her own group of Covenless witches. So it looks like we got some of these Covenless witches attached in this photo as well. But let's go ahead and dive into this, shall we? It says,
is that Kitty from That 70s Show on the far right?
Oh, with the white hat on?
Yeah, because it kind of looks like her, but there was nothing to explain that she was a witch in the in WandaVision.
You know what? I don't know. Let's break down this. Maybe let's break down this article. Yeah, let's break this. I something tells me that I do remember hearing that she was gonna be in this series, but I don't know exactly how or who she's gonna be. I think she's reprising her role, if anything, but double check that for sure.
Yeah.
It says, come WandaVision's end, Agatha Harkness was overpowered by the Scarlet Witch and found herself trapped in Westview, but she's conjuring up some new tricks in her own series. Agatha All Along, a spooky, kooky spinoff from WandaVision creator Jack Schaefer, with Han ready to cackle up a storm again in the MCU. And she won't be alone. As you'll see above in our first exclusive look, Agatha All Along will see Harkness joined by a disparate mixed bag of witches, including Patty LaPon's Lilia, Shashir Zamat's Jennifer, Deborah Jo Roop's Sharon, and Ali Ann's Alice. So I guess they just named who all those characters might be in that image. But it says what they have in common is that they're Covenless witches, is what Jack Schaefer says. Witches are defined by deception, treachery, villainy, and selfishness. What do you do when you have a group of witches who demonstrate those notions and you need them to work together? A whole bunch of chaos magic you'd expect. It says, while details about the show are largely being held under their magical seal, it's being reported that Agatha All Along songwriters Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez have penned some fresh ditties, and the show, according to its creator, will riff on all kinds of witchy lore. He says, where WandaVision played with the form of classic TV sitcoms, here we do a lot of playing with what the assumptions about witches are, like what are shorthand visuals for witches, but expect to find some of their emotions that permeated WandaVision. It says, we certainly didn't want a one-dimensional nasty witch. We will have moments where we see Agatha's true heart. Maybe it won't be entirely pitch black after all. So they are highlighting the idea of a more balanced Agatha, showcasing the more emotional side, but I'm sure certainly that dark, mysterious side as well. So Stu, we got some Covenless witches. We got some fresh new songs that they're maybe kind of putting together in here, and maybe even a little bit of a softer, more balanced side of Agatha. Any first thoughts in regards to this first look?
I mean, yeah, looks like it could be a fun little series. Man, I really don't have too much to say about it, if I'm being honest, other than I thought Agatha was kind of a fun antagonist in WandaVision. I as of now, I don't see how she's going to be able to carry her own show. It is interesting, though. I do look forward to seeing how they kind of open up the mythology of the MCU by referring to the fact that, she has a bunch of Covenless witches joining her on this adventure, implying that like covens in the MCU are actually kind of established then. So I'm curious if they're going to delve more into the mythology of that within the MCU. Yeah, but other than that, there's not really much I'm hyped about. It's not that I'm dreading this show or anything like that. I just, as of now, there's nothing to really hook me.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, again, this is really just like the very first look. I think probably the first time anybody's ever really talked about this series in any sort of productive way. I am thankful that Jack Schaefer is certainly coming back. If you had somebody that worked on WandaVision and that was such a success in bringing somebody like Agatha to life, I am glad that they're at least keeping that person on board that knows WandaVision, knows the stories that were certainly laid out. So there are elements, one of the aspects of WandaVision I really enjoyed was going back and seeing some of Agatha's past, and seeing how that kind of really built a bigger lore and gave her an origin story. So the fact that we are getting that same creative person back for this series does make me hopeful for what this show can certainly turn out to be. I've never been one that feels like we need this show. I am kind of curious as to the bigger overall plan of what something like this might eventually kind of set up. Does it set up, a Midnight Sun series? Do we finally get Mephisto after all this time in here that people have been asking for ever since the first WandaVision episode? So I'm kind of hoping that it does come full circle in here. And since I was such a big fan of seeing Agatha's origin story, I do hope that we get to see an origin story for each individual Covenless witch to kind of see how they ended up in this predicament in the first place, to have to even work with somebody like Agatha. Like the fact that she's bringing them all together, I wonder what their purpose is, what they're certainly trying to achieve. Is it something villainous? Is it something very much sort of self-centered for each individual witch? Is it a group mentality, but secretly they all have their own individual reasons for wanting to do it? So I do think that there can be some fun had when you have witches who are mostly known to be very selfish, as Jack Schaefer says, and with the comedy chops of somebody like Han in here as well. I think there could be fun to be had with this series. But again, I'm kind of with you, Stuart, in the sense of like, I'm not hyped for this. I don't necessarily know if I need this, if this is even sort of like must-watch material, but I am a fan of what they established with Agatha, that I think I'm going to give this a shot because I think the premise alone sounds interesting, but I'm definitely not writing home about it as of right now. I'm definitely going to need to see more first, maybe an eventual trailer, maybe more first looks, maybe as they start doing further interviews about this series. Maybe I'll be a little bit more on board. It's really for me just the idea of what's the purpose of this. And if the purpose is much bigger than they're certainly letting on, or it has connective tissues to other things like a Vision Quest, or, will this bring back the return of Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch? Like, is Agatha trying to bring her back after what happened in Doctor Strange 2? Like, I want to know what the bigger purpose of this series is certainly going to be before I get fully on board with it. But cool first look. I think it's a cool concept. We'll see how it's further developed, though.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, one last joke I'm going to end this on is the title. The one thing that kind of popped into my head with this newest title is what if they just took a bunch of aspects of phase 4 and 5 of the MCU and they try to say, oh, all these aspects that fans are complaining about were caused by Agatha. It was Agatha all along. And they use this show to fix those things.
To fix those? Yeah, maybe. That's pretty funny. But yeah, we'll see how this turns out, man. We do have other MCU television series that we're going to be diving into here in just a little bit, but we will stick into the realm of MCU as we go from just Agatha all along to the bigger Marvel Studios. As it is convention time soon, y'all. I'm not exactly sure when San Diego Comic-Con drops this year. Can you look that up for me, Stuart? When San Diego Comic-Con is this year? I believe my buddy Michael is going to Comic-Con this year. He usually goes every year. He went one year, and every year since then, I mean, the man has gotten his badges renewed all the time. I'm so jealous. I think next year might have to be my time to go to San Diego Comic-Con if I can certainly make it happen. But
let me know if you can get us press passes to that, because I've been wanting to go for so long.
Yeah, I've been trying to, man. We've been getting press passes for WonderCon 2 years back to back. So I'm hoping that one year they're like, you know what? You guys can attend San Diego Comic-Con this year, but I'll definitely keep you posted too. But not only is San Diego Comic-Con this year, but Marvel Studios is set to go ahead and make a return. I feel like it's been a minute since Marvel has been at San Diego Comic-Con with such a huge presence. Disney has really utilized their D23 convention to reveal brand new information and news. And Marvel Studios is so big right now that they really don't need an outlet like a convention to drop announcements. I feel like they do plenty of that on their own time. But it is something special about seeing it in Hall H, big announcements, if you will, from Marvel Studios. And it seems as though we're going to get that again here this year, Stuart. So let's go ahead and dive into this. This comes to us from Deadline.com. It says Marvel Studios heading back to Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con this year. Some of you guys might be wondering, what type of stuff do they have to reveal to us this year? And they have quite a few things. Also, real quick before we continue, if you're watching us over on Instagram, they may only allow us to play for about an hour or so on Instagram. I don't think they're going to play the entire show. So if you do want to, if for some reason the Instagram feed does drop, if you want to watch us on YouTube, check us out at APlus Hero Report, or just here, you'll certainly see our symbol and come join us over here live. We definitely would appreciate that. But let's go ahead and dive into this article, Stuart. It says, exclusive, following a sleepy San Diego Comic-Con last year due to the actors' strike, this year's confab is about to explode with the return of Marvel Studios to Hall H, per sources. Yeah, I guess they did have the writer's strike last year. And the year before that, was that the pandemic? Or I can't remember if Marvel showed up to that or not.
They showed it because I think this photo was from 2021 to hype up everyone for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. But yeah, they weren't there last year because of the writer's strike, and then 2020 because of the pandemic. And then 2019 they were there, But that was the year that like people were both excited and mad at the same time, because on the one hand they announced a lot, but on the other hand it was all logos and like no footage or anything like that.
Right. That's
Yeah.
right. Also on Instagram, shout out to Coast Podcast for certainly coming through. Chicken on a Stick podcast, certainly watching us. The live feed over in Instagram might drop soon because we have been on longer than an hour. So if you want to follow us, check us out over on Twitch or on our YouTube channel at APlus Hero Report. But let's go ahead and dive into it. It says traditionally the penultimate day of San Diego Comic-Con is dedicated to Marvel's presentation in the late afternoon. Comic-Con runs July 25th to 28th, so it's going to be less than a month away. Note that the studio was present at the Fanboy Confad last year with the trade floor booth, a comic book panel, and autographs from distinguished writers and artists. This year's presence from Marvel falls on the opening weekend of Deadpool and Wolverine, which is expected to be huge, with some tracking films spotting a possible $200 million start. No word yet on what Marvel will dazzle us with. However, the studio left big footprints in 2019 when it announced their Disney Plus and big screen crossovers, in 2022 when they teased their Phase 5 and 6 plans. That's what it was. Okay, cool. A lot of that's changed now in 2 years. So if anything, I would expect maybe a new timeline being revealed with things maybe a little bit more spread out this time. And I do think they probably will end up just up to Secret Wars. Like, I can't imagine that they will reveal anything past Secret Wars, but I would assume if anything, we'd have a much better timeline of movies and television and how all of that's going to be sort of spread out over the next, I would say, 3 years. It would not surprise me if Secret Wars comes out 2027 at this point, if they really want to spread things out, but we'll see. So yeah, fascinating that they're going to be there the same weekend as Deadpool and Wolverine. It says Marvel Studios plans on San Diego Comic-Con go down to the wire with never before seen clips polished up with some music and VFX. For starters, given the first weekend of Deadpool and Wolverine, it wouldn't be a surprise if Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman were put in as a special appearance. 1 year pre-COVID, Marvel introduced the cast of Guardians of the Galaxy, a stunt that had fans screaming like the Beatles fans. That said, perhaps Fantastic Four casts could show up. The movie is set to start filming after Comic-Con in July, so that's definitely a big possibility. Exhibitors at CinemaCon already got a first look at Captain America 4 Brave New World, which is dated for February 14th of next year. So we can expect footage from that. They say Thunderbolts is in production for a May 2nd. Oh, wait, did I miss something? Is in production for a May 2nd summer start. It's entirely possible we see footage or maybe cast from that movie as well as others. Marvel series Wonder Man and Ironheart have completed shooting. So Wonder Man and Ironheart are already wrapped and in post-production. Among those projects without footage are the next Avengers films, which Sean Levy is a top choice for the director's gig. That's something we've been talking heavily about, and a lot more. So, Stuart, out of the things that we have mentioned, is there are you surprised at the idea of Deadpool and Wolverine going to be there? Out of some of the things that they announced, what would you personally like to see revealed this year?
I wouldn't be opposed to if because Comic-Con, you asked me to look this up earlier, and so it starts on the 25th, which is the day after the premiere of Deadpool and Wolverine, and it goes to the 28th. So I would be excited if one of the announcements was that Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds were going to be in a couple of future MCU projects, mainly Secret Wars. Like if we got some announcements on certain actors that we could see coming back for that movie, that'd be kind of the number one thing I'm hyped for. The other thing too is if they give us like any more information about Fantastic Four, what we can expect in terms of its plot and timeline. because okay, so here's the weird thing with Fantastic Four that like I can't find where people are getting this source from, but everyone seems to be under the impression that Fantastic Four doesn't take place in the main MCU, that it's going to be taking place in an Elseworlds kind of timeline. So I'm curious if they're going to confirm or deny that at a San Diego Comic-Con. Because yeah, for me, I mean, I could see it going either way. I don't know why everyone is automatically on the assumption that it's not going to be in the MCU. You know,
There's something that tells me I think Kevin Feige recently confirmed that.
Did he?
Let me see real quick here. Yeah, he confirmed this a couple days ago, I think. Kevin Feige confirms Fantastic Four is a period piece. This was from June 27th. Let me see if I can find. Oh, it says Feige has revealed that the film is a period piece set in the 1960s. He says it is a period piece, and there's another piece of art we released with Johnny flying in the air, making a force symbol. There was a cityscape in that image. There were a lot of people who noticed that the cityscape didn't look like the New York that we know or the New York that existed in the 60s in our world. Those are smart observations. So he does confirm that not only is it a period piece, but that it's a different timeline.
Okay, so that's what. Okay, that would actually make sense then, because I knew that it was going to be a period piece, like that had already been confirmed. I just didn't know where everyone was getting the idea of it being a different universe coming from. But yeah, I guess that would be the main thing. If it takes place in New York City and it doesn't look like the real world New York City, that would probably be the biggest indicator, since like the implication with the MCU has always been that, with the exception of Captain America, it's always been like the real world until 2008, and then it stopped being the real world.
But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to Marvel being back at San Diego Comic-Con. I am hoping that because of the fact that we have, look, and I think we've talked about this here several times, anytime that we've mentioned the idea of who is going to be directing Avengers, I think we've said a couple of times, like, the momentum behind Sean Levy right now and the implications of what Deadpool and Wolverine could potentially be, like, it would not surprise us at all if he was the one that was going to be named as director. And so there's a part of me that's hoping that if the weekend goes really well, if they can tell, like, hey, we're making a ton of money this weekend from Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm hoping that not only is Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman back, but I do hope Sean Levy is there to confirm that, yes, he is going to be director for Avengers Secret Wars. I would really love that announcement, along with the announcement, like you said, Stuart, that Deadpool and Wolverine would be back in Secret Wars. So I'm kind of hoping that we get a dual announcement here from hopefully seeing Deadpool and Wolverine on stage together along with Sean Levy. It just feels like a great layup and a great way to celebrate like what your new movie is doing in the box office, and also getting people hyped, like, man, we love this movie. I can't wait to see what this guy's now going to do for an Avengers film. I think you want to keep that level of excitement and anticipation for a new Avengers movie. So I would love to see that. And yeah, I would agree. I think we're going to get a lot of footage. I think we're definitely going to get teases in regards to Captain America 4. I do think we're going to get not necessarily a teaser trailer, but at least maybe some more behind the scenes images or footage from Thunderbolts also, as that kind of comes together. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually release maybe some featurettes for us to watch. Maybe those in attendance might get a 5-10 minute clip or something like that of what they've put together so far to get people hyped. But, sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't release this stuff to the general public. But I hope that they have something for the general public. And if those are behind the scenes featurettes, I'll definitely take them for those two movies. So I expect some footage from Captain America 4, some footage from a Thunderbolts, a Deadpool and Wolverine portion. Give me the cast of Fantastic Four out there to give us new details. Maybe this is their reveal of them in costume. I think that would be pretty cool. Maybe a brand new teaser poster, I think, would be really great. Like, have them literally come out on stage in their Fantastic Four outfits, I think would be incredible. I don't know what you're going to do about the Thing though.
Just
Maybe
have
give
him come out in a motion capture suit.
Yeah,
And then just be like, use your imagination, everyone.
yeah, I would love to see the cast there
Oh
for
my
sure.
gosh. Do you remember the toys that they had with the Incredible Hulk? They were like the fists, and basically they were like
Oh,
padded fists, and you could
yeah,
punch and it would make sound
yeah.
effects. Have them come out with that, but like painted orange.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe they have practical Thing arms or hands, and he just comes out in a Fantastic Four costume also.
Yeah.
But again, be great. Um, and then with Wonder Man, Ironheart being kind of wrapped, I wouldn't mind new information in regards to those two. You know, whether or not we get footage of that, some teaser posters that I don't know, maybe some actual footage of Daredevil Born Again. I think maybe we get ourselves a trailer reveal for that finally. And yeah, outside of that, I don't know what else you would kind of show. I don't know when these shows are going to be revealed, but I do expect a brand new timeline also. So definitely footage from Captain America, definitely footage from Thunderbolts. I'm expecting a trailer from Daredevil Born Again, the cast of Fantastic Four, Deadpool and Wolverine cast also. And then maybe you get Ironheart and Wonder Man sort of all on stage together to talk about their stuff. Maybe they don't have footage that they're ready to show just yet on that, though. But I think there's plenty for Marvel to certainly celebrate at San Diego Comic-Con and really get the hype machine building, because this is going to be your first big presentation after the public sort of outcry of we need to change course. You know, we need to do things differently. We've brought in a bunch of brand new writers to go ahead and really flesh out these scripts even further. We're doing heavy reshoots. This is where we're going, guys, and hopefully get people on board once again. This is Marvel's opportunity, if you ask me.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, something else?
No, I thought came, but then it went. So yeah, I think that's got it.
But look, as we want to know your thoughts, what would you personally like to see happen at Marvel Studios Hall H this year? Do you expect bigger reveals? Is there more content out there that Marvel Studios is working on that you certainly want to hear more from? I mean, who knows? Maybe like season 2 announcement of X-Men 97 with a release date or something like that. You know, like there's plenty going on behind the scenes, but it's going to be kind of tricky with figuring out where all this stuff is going to be placed. So I am hoping for a more detailed timeline reveal at least. But yeah, let us know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below as to what you personally would like to see. And with that out of the way, Stu, let's move on. We got 2 more main topics that we're going to be breaking down before we get into your guys' live viewer question. We got 27 people watching us live, 1 over on Twitch, 5 over on YouTube, 21 over on Twitter right now. Guys, listen, if you haven't hit that like button yet, if you haven't retweeted or shared this video, please do so, man. The only way that we grow is with your guys' help and support. So certainly please go ahead and do so. But let's go ahead and get into this next topic, as we're going to get into some television talk for you guys today, as I'm always down for a great sort of werewolf hunter, vampire hunter. Give me a monster verse sort of concept in general, and I'm definitely there. And it seems as though we're going to be getting that once again in the form of Van Helsing. Maybe not Hugh Jackman himself coming back, but we are getting Van Helsing in television series form that's going to be taking place on national network television. Stu, can you look up the most recent Van Helsing series? I feel like there was a Van Helsing series with a female attached. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was. I think it was on Netflix. It was Vanessa Helsing, is what like it was.
Oh.
So it was VEN instead of VAN.
Oh.
Helsing. I think it was supposed to be the
Okay.
daughter or the granddaughter of Van Helsing in that series.
But yeah, look up some live action Van Helsing content that we might have had over the past couple of years, because while we're not visiting it in film form, we are going to be diving into it in the realm of television. And you know, I can't lie, Stu, I'm actually kind of fascinated with this decision here. This comes to us from deadline.com. It says Van Helsing series in the works at CBS. from Jonathan Lee, Rob Doherty, Carl Beverly, and Sarah Timberman. It says exclusive. Van Helsing is turning crime fighter in a new series in development at CBS. Jonathan Lee, the author behind Netflix and BBC's upcoming drama series Lockerbie, is writing the eponymous series, which is in the works at Paramount-owned broadcaster. It is believed to have landed at CBS after a hotly contested auction. Elementary creator Bob Doherty is executive producing in a project alongside Carl Beverly and Sarah Tomberman under their deal with Lionsgate Television. The series is a contemporary take on the monster hunter Dr. Abraham Van Helsing, who uses his uniquely inquisitive mind working alongside his ex-relentless FBI special agent Mina Harker to solve New York City's most harrowing cases per the logline. Van Helsing is the latest producerial project in the works at CBS. It says they revealed earlier this week, which was developing another adaptation of a German detective drama series, Einstein. Interesting. Lee is the author of books including The Great Mistake, yada, yada, yada. In the latest adaptation of Van Helsing into a TV series, Sci-Fi aired a fantasy horror series based on Bram Stoker's creation, known as a vampire slayer, monster hunter, and arch nemesis of Dracula for five seasons, starring Kelly Overton. So maybe that's the other series I was thinking of also, the Van Helsing TV series on Sci-Fi starring Kelly Overton. So they have had a Van Helsing television series before. There might be more. If Stuart can certainly find it for us.
Okay, no, that was the one I was thinking of. For some reason, I
Okay.
thought that was a Netflix show, but no, that was a Sci-Fi show. I think
Sci-Fi
it was
channel.
just because the whole show was on Netflix. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they probably dropped it on Netflix. And then we have the 2004 action horror film starring Hugh Jackman as Van Helsing that I think a lot of us certainly remember.
And then there was also the parody movie, which I think it's my own fault for watching with expectations. When it's a parody movie, you should never watch those with expectations. But it was called Stan Helsing, and on paper, it had such a great concept because the idea is it's a video store employee who is kind of like in the show an ancestor of Van Helsing, but in this he takes on kind of more of the 80s slasher monsters like Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Pinhead, and Michael Myers, which on paper I'm like, this sounds like the coolest movie ever. And then in execution, it was so bad. Like I don't think I laughed a single point in the entire movie.
No.
It's just I maybe had a chuckle here and there, but that it wasn't worth it.
I'm fascinated, but I'm also concerned at the same time with this series. And I'll explain. I was a fan of Elementary. I didn't watch all of the series, but I definitely enjoyed it when I watched. I thought it was a great sort of contemporary take on Sherlock Holmes. But after reading this article, the fact that CBS is also working on another sort of detective series, but with Einstein, like, is it Albert Einstein himself? Is it like the great grandchild of Einstein? It's like they're taking all these, these characters from the past, whether that be, real characters like Einstein or fictional characters like Van Helsing and Sherlock Holmes, and they're kind of all making them feel the same. Like I'm kind of hoping that this isn't going to turn into like CSI, but like with fictional characters, like I hope this doesn't turn into a Law and Order sort of like all of these are eventually going to be connected, or they're just all going to feel the same eventually. You know what I mean? And I feel like when it comes to national television like this being developed on CBS, it can easily fall down that path. And while I think Sherlock, or I should say Elementary, worked really well for Sherlock, I almost feel like Van Helsing in his own right should be a period piece, a different time. Like the fact that he's going to be working alongside an FBI agent and solving horrific crimes like in New York City. Like I hope that there are crimes at least surrounding the supernatural elements like werewolves and vampires and stuff like that would be like, for me, I could easily jump on board with that. But it's like when you make him contemporary, like what does that mean? Is he gonna have his crossbows and his his daggers or his his stakes like on his waist, or is he gonna be like in a business suit and a trench coat? Like I don't necessarily know if I need my Van Helsing to be contemporary. I think Van Helsing works really well as sort of like a period piece or a timely character set in another time. And so the fact that we're trying to make Van Helsing work for today's day and age, still keep maybe that supernatural element, but keep it grounded with a FBI agent and working in the dark corners of New York City. There's an element where I'm like, okay, that could be fun. It certainly has that elementary vibe to it, but I feel like Van Helsing works better when he is in a completely different time period. So we'll see how this works out, because like when they say it's also trying to develop an Einstein thing, I'm like, okay, so this is pretty much the very same series, but what is he solving? Math problems, science problems, like going on in the scientific community and world. Like I'm trying to figure out what's going on here.
See, when I think of that, I think of do you ever see the movie Beautiful Mind?
Yeah.
I think of that, except for without the twist of it all being in his head. Like I see it being a series where the FBI are like trying to solve some big conspiracy, and so they hire Einstein to
They need that creative consultant. They need that consultant, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it sounds like a funny idea on paper, because to me it comes off like Rick and Morty when they do like the intergalactic television, and they're always watching those improvised commercials. That's what it seems like. This sounds like an improvised trailer where they're like, in a world where the FBI need numbers to solve a crime, there's only one man we can turn to, Mr. Einstein.
Yeah.
We need your math skills to solve this, murder mystery or whatever. The killer, he's leaving all these math clues and we can't figure it out.
And they figure out the clue and they realize he's supernatural, and he says, I've got a friend that can help us, Helsing. And and then it's a crossover event.
And it becomes a crossover event with the Helsing series. Helsing must travel back in time to help Einstein solve this supernatural mystery with a monster, with a demon that's obsessed with numbers.
But he won't even have to do time traveling, because he literally lives in the same New York City bureau as this guy.
I'm assuming that like Einstein will be. I'm assuming Einstein would have to be a period piece. You'd hope, unless like this is in an alternate universe where Einstein wasn't born until modern times.
I'm telling you, man. I don't know how to feel about this. I don't like. I felt a little like. I think it's the contemporary aspect of this that's really throwing me off. Like when they say he's going to team up with his FBI agent, like really, like we're going that route. Like it feels too elementary, more elementary than that of Van Helsing proper. But any initial thoughts, or we pretty much have the same? What are your thoughts?
I mean, we pretty much have the same thoughts. I'm just very indifferent about this. I don't really watch cable network that much anymore, so I probably wouldn't have checked this out even if it was intriguing, unless it went to streaming like later. But that said, even if this show is terrible, it's whatever, because Van Helsing is a property that we're gonna see again at some point in the future. So it's not like he's not like one of those characters where when a bad show based on him comes out, it's like, oh no, this character's ruined forever. It's like, no, we'll probably see another movie, and might be good, or it might be like the 2004 movie where it's just like weird. I thought it was okay, actually. I didn't think it was that bad. But I'm indifferent about this, basically.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I'm kind of indifferent about it. He says another project, Van Helsing project, they better bring something new to make it stand out, because Van Helsing projects are not as profitable as Star Wars and Marvel, DC, or even the most of Disney. Yeah, you're absolutely right in that regards. That's why they're making it contemporary this time, so that he connects with the people. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I hate that. I hate it. I don't like that idea, but maybe the execution will be handled better than what it is in my head currently right now.
Yeah, because like right now, it sounds like they're going the route that worked really well with Angel. But like I
Mm.
also don't know how they would do that with Van Helsing because like unless they want to make it so it's like he was just born in modern days. I'm like wondering if they're making it so he's like a mortal who's just younger than traditional Van Helsings, or if they're gonna somehow write him to be immortal and that's why he's alive in modern times. I don't know.
Yeah, you might be yeah, we'll see how this winds up hitting, man. I really have no idea, but we'll see what they make of it. I think it's one of those things, like I think Van Helsing is a really cool character. I just think you definitely have to have a really cool concept to kind of bring him to life a little bit more, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how CBS handles this. But with that out of the way, let's go on to our shout out to over on Instagram, George, for joining us. Thanks so much, George, for certainly joining us today, man. We appreciate it. I don't know if it's still even going live over on on Instagram anymore, but if it is going live on Instagram still, if you want to check us out over on YouTube in case that gets cut off, please do on YouTube at APlus Hero Report.
Looks like we're still live on Instagram.
Okay, perfect. But yeah, if it drops at any minute, guys, you know where to find us. But with that out of the way, Stu, let's go ahead and move on to our last topic of the day before we get into live viewer questions. And real quick, before, if you guys do want to drop your live viewer question, go over to our YouTube channel, APlus Hero Report. Click on that community tab, and there is a live viewer question post. You can go ahead and submit that over, and we'll answer your questions at the end of the show. And with that out of the way, Stuart, let's get into our Star Wars bag, man, because honestly, I feel like we have been on a roll talking about Star Wars lately with our Acolyte series. We've been pushing out a bunch of clips for you guys, some shorts over on our YouTube channel. You've probably seen them drop over on Instagram, on Twitter as well, over on Threads, where we talk the Acolyte live every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Central. We have a live review and discussion show for you guys. Certainly join us if you've been watching the Acolyte, or if you're a big Star Wars fan. We certainly would always love to have you over there. But after episode 5, Stu, this has allowed a lot of people to continue to talk about the Acolyte here. Some negative, a lot more positive certainly this week in regards to all the great things that we had. I think personally, if I'm not mistaken, I think episode 5 we graded as a whole. Our consensus ranking was an A-, one of the best episodes certainly of the season, and we'll see if the Acolyte can certainly continue that momentum. But as we have only 3 episodes left, the big question that I see people asking is, will there be a season 2? And it seems as though Leslye Headland possibly has an answer to that, or at least gives us a little bit indication as regards to how she's handling the concept of possibly getting a second season. The article that we're going to read with you guys today is from Entertainment Weekly. It wind up dropping back on June 27th, right after the big reveals for the episode that we wind up getting. So this might be kind of spoiler-ish for some of you if you haven't checked out episode 5 of the Acolyte, or if you don't mind being spoiled a little bit. We're definitely going to be talking about it in heavy regards here. So if you don't want to be spoiled, this is your time to bounce. But I will read from this article, Stu. But I think if anything, I'll probably start at the end and focus really on the season 2 element. And then after that, we'll dive a little bit more into what the rest of the interview winds up saying. And if you want to go ahead and read this article for yourself, again, it is on Entertainment Weekly. Hold on, let me just bring up one more thing here, just image-wise for us, so we can go ahead and promote the show. But look, guys, if you've had the opportunity to check out the Acolyte so far, I am kind of curious as to what you've graded the show so far. If you had to bring a report card home to your parents and open it up and say, "Look, Mom, Dad, 5 episodes into the Acolyte, this is my grade," what would you certainly grade it? We definitely want to know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. But will this series get an season 2, Stuart? According to, they say, the question they ask is, you've mentioned a possible season 2. So not knowing when you crafted this, how many seasons you were going to get? Did you craft a firm season finale ending like Obi-Wan Kenobi, or is it teeing up more stories to come like the way Ahsoka ended its first season? She says, I'll tell you my philosophy on first seasons. Something that I've noticed is first seasons will end on what should have been the break into Act 2. It feels like everyone's really expecting to get a second season, and I don't feel that's a good idea. I think you should put everything you can into the first season and give the audience a nice resolution that feels satisfying, but enough nods to mysteries that you would want to see a second season. So it's a little bit of both. You don't want to leave it so wrapped up like Obi-Wan or a standalone miniseries that there's no reason to watch a second season. But I think there's enough in the last few episodes that you would want to have answered. Go ahead.
Huh? Oh, I was just going to say, okay, yeah, that's the beginning of that paragraph, and the way it ended was very different, because I was about to be like, because it almost sounded like she was about to say that, oh yeah, never end a first season with the idea that you won't have a season 2. It's like, I don't know about that. But then, like, kind of as you specified, it's like, at least have everything wrapped up, all the important parts, but then have like a little bit of sprinkles of mystery. It's like, okay, that I do agree with.
And she also says, he also asks, where are you now in terms of season 2? Have you written outlines? Are there scripts? Are you just sort of playing the waiting game? She says, I remember reading that Vince Gilligan, in writing and doing the first seasons of Breaking Bad, really didn't plan on, you were getting 7 more seasons and this is what's going to happen to Walter White. It was much more, here's everything we got. We're throwing everything at the wall. And then with the pickup, he mapped out, okay, here's what's going to happen over the course of however many seasons. So I took that approach with it. I threw everything into season 1 because who knows what's going to happen. And then I'd say there are 4 to 5 major mysteries and plot points that I have to hit in season 2. But until we get a proper pickup, I worry that spending a lot of time in that world, especially being in a period where I've worked so long on this project that honestly I'm exhausted by it coming out, to kind of jump right into like, all right, season 2. It'll probably be more that I know what needs to happen and I know what the character development needs to be in order to hit the plot points and the character points for a second, third, or fourth season. So I look forward to working on that. But right now, I haven't. I gotta say, for me at least, Stuart, this is pretty refreshing. I don't know if we're gonna get ourselves a season 2 or not, but I do like the idea that come the finale, the main story, at least of, I would assume, of what happened on Brendok, why May was trying to kill these Jedi in the first place. I would expect that mystery to eventually be fully fleshed out and resolved. And we kind of get an idea of what part everybody certainly had to play in it. Like, that's the mystery to me.
Mm-hmm.
The further reveal of things like the backstory for the Sith, maybe that's something that will get explored later. How much of Soul's past will we get explained in season 1? Do I need everything? No, I think you could maybe hold on to some of those mysteries until a potential second season, but I need to know at least his point of view and his actions from season 1 and the events of Brendok. So I'm glad that we're at least going to be wrapping up what the main story is here, because it would really suck if not only do we not get ourselves a season 2, but it leaves us on a cliffhanger the way that season 4, like episode 4, left us off on. And like, to not come back and complete these arcs and these characters, I think would just be devastating to me as a viewer. And so I'm glad that we're getting a definitive end to the main question of this season, with the idea of, there's definitely potentially more to certainly be told, but not something that we won't end off feeling unsatisfied. You know what I mean? So this does give me some confidence.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that as long as they wrap up that mystery of like the full story of what happened, with the Jedi and the witches, that to me will be a satisfactory kind of wrap up of that story. But if they were to end it with Soul being like, let me tell you what really happened, and then it ends, before we actually hear it, then yeah, I would just say that would probably piss me off.
Yeah, that would definitely piss me off a little bit too. With that being said, though, do you think this show gets a season 2? I mean, when you and I'll just back that up real quick and let you think about it. But you look at something like Rotten Tomatoes, right? The critic score is proven that it's certified fresh, if I'm not mistaken. If you can look it up real quick and see what the Rotten Tomato score is for the Acolyte, critic scores is enjoying it. Audience score, not so much, but it would be intellectually dishonest of me to say there's no review bombing for the show happening. Like you can look at it and visually tell, yeah, people are legit bombing this show. It doesn't necessarily have the same safeguards that movies have, where you have to prove that you've actually watched it before. Television series on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think anybody can almost rate the show if they want to. But it is something that I wonder if Disney looks at. Considering how divisive that this series has been, which is unwarranted if you personally ask me. Is the show great? No. Is the show trash? No. Is there an in-between somewhere for some people? I think so. I think some people can walk away from this series saying it's good or just okay. And if you think it's trash and have a legit critical reason and criticism behind it, then I can definitely understand that. But it does make me wonder, with the divisiveness that's been happening, the loud majority, the loud minority, the now becoming louder majority, I think, of people that watch this series. Do you think Disney's paying attention to that in regards to whether or not this is something that should be renewed or shouldn't? How do you feel about it? Do you think we'll get a second season?
I think whether or not we get a second season, one thing I will say right now is that the reviews will have nothing to do with Disney's overall decision. What will are the viewerships, and with Disney's overall plan with Star Wars, if they feel like a second, third season will fit into the overall grand scheme of things with their Star Wars, universe. That's what's going to determine it. The reviews are not going to have any effect on it whatsoever. And the reason is because this was actually something that John Campbell was bringing up that I agree with him on. This it's funny because he doesn't like the Acolyte at all. But
John Campia?
Or Campia, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So John Campia brings this up. He doesn't like the Acolyte at all, but he brings up the fact that every big review, and I'm talking about the review that when you type in Acolyte review on YouTube, the first thing that comes up, it always comes from the Chud channels. And because of that, it's so hard to take any review seriously, even the ones that have actually good critiques of the show. Because I mean, I'm enjoying the show, as you know, because we're reviewing it together. But if someone tells me they don't like it and they can come up with some good reasons, I'm not going to doubt them, because this isn't a perfect show at all. There are plenty of reasons to dislike it. But the problem is, those reviews aren't the ones that are popping up when you look up bad reviews for the Acolyte on YouTube. You're getting the Chud channels, the ones that are review bombing it, the ones that are saying that this completely ruined Star Wars and then giving such dumb reasons for it, such as
Kiadi Mundy's in it.
Yeah, Kiadi Mundi. He's not the same age as he was in Star Wars Legends. This totally breaks lore. Or, these witches have a different view of the Force. That breaks lore altogether. You can't use the Force unless you have the exact mindset of the Jedi, something like that. And it's none of that is true. I mean, yes, the Kiadi Mundi thing is true, that in a Legends novel, or not novel, dictionary, he was considered a different age than he was in the actual or in this show now as he is like in lore, you know what I mean? Sorry, I kind of went off the rails there, but you know what I mean? Like the reviews, the reasons that people are giving in these negative reviews for hating the show are so dumb and ridiculous. I can't imagine Disney is actually taking any of these reviews seriously. And it's hard because the good reviews, the ones that are actually written by people that like watch the show, actually know what they're talking about in terms of critiquing movies and TV shows, they're so hard to find now because the Chud channels are the ones that just constantly pop up. So that all to be said, whatever happens with the show, if it gets renewed for a second season or not, the reviews will play zero part in it. It will not have a single factor as to Disney's overall decision. So personally, I don't know. Honestly, it really depends on how the show ends. I will have a better answer as to whether or not I think we'll get a season 2 based on the ending of this show. But just from everything I've seen so far, right now, it kind of feels like a one and done show. Like we could get another show within this era with some of those same characters crossing into it. But I don't know if they would call it Star Wars: The Acolyte. I feel like if you were going to make a sequel to the show, you would give it another name. You know what I mean?
I get you. I see what you mean. Maybe not necessarily continuing this story, but branching out and maybe a new group of characters, but later on in the timeline as we get closer to the Phantom Menace or something like that in this era.
Yeah, I just don't know if the title of Acolyte would make sense after this season, at least depending on how it ends. You know, I feel like it works for this season, for the story this season is trying to tell, but assuming that everything gets wrapped up, I don't know how you would keep that title for season 2.
I do think that you're right in the sense that I think that the second half of this season, I think will play a major role in whether or not this gets renewed. I think the last 3 episodes, and I think that's one of the reasons why, and I don't know if Disney does this often, renews shows relatively quickly. You know, I have a feeling that they're going to wait until this mystery gets fully played out. And so I do think that maybe after the first, maybe after, say, the next 2 episodes, like I could see maybe a season 2 announcement coming just before the dropping of the 8th episode. Or at least maybe after the 8th episode, depending on does this series sort of stick the landing and how people kind of receive it. So and with this being really our first dive into a whole new era, I can understand the idea of Disney maybe wanting to keep their stuff close to the vest until they're ready to kind of make that announcement. Because I do think, especially when it comes to mysteries, you know, mysteries do tend to be slow burns. And, you know, the way that you execute it, you could give us more information maybe than what we've been getting so far. I do think that they have been giving us great breadcrumbs that they've at least hinted to, or things that we've been able to put together the pieces in our heads so far, but still holding off on the big reveals until a little bit later. Some people may feel the pacing's a little bit off at times, but I do think now that we are in the final half, episode 5 gave us sort of that adrenaline dump, and now 6, 7, and 8, I am hoping not only quickens the pace, but starts giving us a lot more information. And so I do think that come the end of this season, maybe we get ourselves a season 2 announcement. I personally would like to see another one. But you know, I don't have a problem with people that are okay with the idea of being one and done. If that, you know, if it's coming from an honest critique, certainly of the show. But I do think that they can get away with a lot just based off of some of the characters that they've established. But I mean, goodness, Stuart, they've literally killed off like half of these main characters so far, right? So yeah, it does feel like either you're going to give us a brand new show after this winds up wrapping, or you're going to introduce brand new sort of main characters, which I wouldn't have a problem with either, because it does feel like also like a Rian Johnson Knives Out thing, right? Like each new movie is a brand new set of cast. And if anything, if we do say farewell to a lot of these characters, I would expect a season 2 to be a brand new group of Jedi that get focused on, or maybe it turns to a more dark side-esque, and instead of focusing on the Jedi like they did in season 1, maybe season 2 is an all-out sort of dark side season, training your apprentice or training your acolyte to become the next apprentice or whatever the case may be. So I do think that there are avenues that can make for a fascinating season 2 if they certainly wanted to go that route. But let's go ahead and actually continue along with this article a little bit more. I do want to talk about, again, this is spoiler warnings if you guys didn't get the opportunity to check out season or episode 5. It says killing a main character is obviously a big move, an exceedingly rare move, and then you did it twice in one episode. Tell me about deciding to part with both Jackie and Yord. He says, I think a good twist is not about hiding everything from the audience and then throwing it on them like, hey, this is what you didn't see. We hit it so well that you didn't see it. I think a good twist is telegraphing what's going to happen, and then once it does, executing it without an ounce of pity or sentimentality. She says, I think an example of that is really worked well was Empire Strikes Back, because when Luke leaves Yoda on Dagobah, Yoda straight up is like, if you face Vader, you're going to fail. You just are. She says, it's not like the audience didn't know going in that that's what was up. He says, but when Luke loses, he loses in such a devastating way, not just physically, but psychologically. He loses on such a huge level. So the twist of I am your father works because you already know he's going to lose. So you're just waiting for how it's going to happen, and you don't know it's going to cut as deep as it does. And I think there is truth to that, because when we watch the episodes, I think even Will was like, oh yeah, I saw this coming a mile away. But I still think it was still impactful. Like even I was holding on to hope that somebody like a Jackie would certainly survive. And even if you had the idea mentality of like, yeah, all these people, because they've seen this quote unquote Sith, are not making it out alive, the fashion in which that they go out and the emotional, psychological drain that it has on somebody like a Master Soul, I think is what heightened that episode and those particular moments for me even more.
Yeah, no, and I think she said something very similar when it came to the reveal of who the Sith actually was going to be, because we were all predicting it, and she kind of says, yeah, I knew it was going to be a bit obvious, so it was really more about executing it correctly. And I think that's one thing the show did absolutely right, because when you see him as a Sith, like I mentioned this in our review, he's like he comes off with such a different persona than what we saw him before, where it's like, oh dang, this guy, I can actually take him seriously as a villain, something you really like didn't expect from the way you kind of see him in the show. Actually, it reminds me of something I learned in film school. Give the audience what they expect, but not the way they expect it.
Yes, I think that's a perfect example of how you mentioned that. She also says, so how did that play into the reveal of Quimir as the stranger? She says it's not a jaw-dropping moment as much as I think the question is, well, is it going to happen? What are we going to see? There were definitely moments in episodes 2 and 4 where you're like, there's something going on with this dude. When he says, you look just like her, there's something that you're like, whoa, what's this about? But you need a villain that you kind of agree with in some ways, not his actions, obviously, but when Soul says, what do you want? And he says freedom, that is something that you can't necessarily argue with. He wants freedom to be able to be who he is and wield his power the way that he wants to, but he also wants the freedom on a second level that I think we'll get more into if we get into season 2. But once we knew he was going to kill Jackie and Yord, then it became about how are we going to execute this in a way that feels satisfying and believable once it does happen. And then they say, are we going to learn more about his backstory, either through flashbacks or dialogue, to learn about how he came across this path? He says, basically, it's Osha's story. You don't know much about the stranger's background, and you're not really going to learn much about it. But there is a bunch of things in episodes 6 and 8 that are really big clues as to why he is the way he is and why his philosophy is the way that it is. And I got to say, I was a big fan of the reveal in here. first off, the idea of Jackie attacking him and being the one to get the mask off, I thought was dope. But then not seeing his face until her body literally plummets to the floor, and then you see him between the twin blades. I thought it was just sick. And then he stands up into this pose with a cool, like slow motion, slow closing shot of him. And you just see a completely different demeanor from this guy. And when he starts talking, it's just that much more sort of menacing. So he's right. Even though we knew who the guy was going to be, I think the reveal and the way that they executed it was pretty brilliant to me.
Exactly. And yeah, I think that again, kind of going back to the two deaths that that she kind of claims, like, oh yeah, it wasn't supposed to be that surprising. It was just supposed to be the execution is what made it the way it was. Like, I would agree with that. And I still got to give a lot of credit to the reason I personally didn't see those deaths coming was because you already had a bunch of like other Jedi that were nameless, and you knew they were not going to make it out of there alive. And I think that's what kind of helped to like have those characters you already knew were going to die, and then mixing them in with characters that like you didn't quite expect to die as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They say, what can we say about him taking out all the Jedi? She says, you understand one aspect of the killing is that it's so shocking, but then he explains it. He says, they see my face. They all have to die. He's not like, I murdered them. That was fun. He says, I murdered them for preservation. They threaten my existence, and therefore I have to kill them. So in a way, not that you agree with him necessarily, but you also understand it's one of the reasons we had him cheat and resort to trickery, because when you're fighting for survival, there's no such thing as a fair fight. You have to survive, and a Jedi cannot know he exists. They must die as far as he's concerned. So it felt like it had to happen. The people that have seen it are like, how could you do that? And I was like, there's no other way around it. So she definitely confronts that aspect of having to kill all those people. So how did you come up with the look of the stranger? She says, when we were designing the costume, I said it very early on, I don't want him to wear armor besides the gauntlet and the helmet. That's the cortosis and how he uses them, but he doesn't have any armor. And my costume designer was like, why? And I said, why would you wear armor if you don't plan on getting hit? He has that level of confidence of just like, no one's going to land anything on me.
That is true. Like, you could say his gauntlet, but with that one, it's not like any of the Jedi actually hit him there. He himself like actually goes out of his way to hit the lightsabers with his gauntlet.
Yeah, I thought that was like the coolest thing. Like, that was the first audible like moment I had watching the episode, when I see him use his gauntlet and then literally headbutts the fucking lightsaber. I was like, what is going on? I'd never seen anything like that before, man. It was incredible to watch.
Something I never thought I'd see in a Star Wars property. Someone headbutting a lightsaber.
Yeah, bro. Craziest thing I've ever seen. Outside of that moment, I would say the reveal of the twin saber from Darth Maul. When the other one comes on the other side, watching the prequels for the first time, never having seen that in Star Wars live action before. Like, it's that level of type of moment for me.
Yeah.
They also say, moving over to the other side of the Force, Master Soul seems much more empathetic and emotional than your typical stoic Jedi. How much of that is due to the events that happened 16 years ago involving May and Osha? And she says, the stranger says, I've accepted my darkness. What have you done with yours? It's the accusation that there's something inside of Soul that he has not faced in a while, and that the audience doesn't know about yet, and that Osha doesn't really know about. I think that's Soul's emotional through line, the way that he's been emotionally available to the audience, and has to do with the conflict within him. I think his inner conflict puts him out of balance, and that's why he's both compelling and also why he's haunted. And I feel like we've been calling that out of Master Soul for quite some time now, especially like, at least I did when we saw him reminiscing about his old Padawan, and even Jackie kind of calls him out, like, why do you keep a holocron of your old Jedi, your old Padawan? It's just that form of attachment that I think we've been taught for such a long time that Jedi certainly aren't allowed to have. And you can easily see his attachment to somebody like Osha, even when we get to see the flashback sequence in episode 3, and he's hugging Osha and promising her she's never going to feel this level of pain like again. You know what I mean? Like, he's really going out of the way to promise things that he cannot like fulfill 100%. And to kind of see that clearly events happened on Brendock that he hasn't been completely faithful and honest about, now coming back to kind of haunt him, it does make Master Soul a very riveting and compelling character to where you're like, how much was he involved in? What is he hiding from us? You know, the fact that he's eventually going to have to face that truth and explain it to the audience is something I'm really looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. I'll leave the rest of the interview for you guys to certainly check out for yourselves if you'd like to. But I thought it was a really great interview from Leslye Headland for you guys to certainly check out. Do you guys think the Acolyte season 2 is going to get or this Acolyte, is it going to get a season 2? We definitely want to know your guys' thoughts. And most importantly, would you like to see a season 2? But I think it's going to be like, for a lot of people, Stuart, like you mentioned, let's see how season 1 wraps up first.
Yeah, exactly. And again, my overall thing is the reviews will not play into Disney's decision. I stand by that.
No, I think I'm thinking you're right. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, Stuart, I think you know what time it is.
I do indeed. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we're going to get into our live viewer question portion of the show. If you guys ever want to submit a live viewer question, let me show you how it works. We're going to go over to our YouTube channel. Oops, you know what? Hold on. Adam already messing things up. Hold on a second. View channel. Okay, there we go. We're going to go over to our YouTube channel, as you guys see right here. Click on that community tab. And every Saturday, we'll go ahead and post a live viewer question here for you guys. So feel free to submit your questions over at any time. Let's say we have 6 comments today. Let's see who we got first. Good old Marcelino. Well, before I do, let me go ahead and kick this, get this music started, Stuart, so we have some afternoon vibes for sure. It might sound a little distorted at first, but it'll kick in.
Yeah. Still a little distorted, but oh, hang on.
You can hear me now? Yeah.
Yep, you're back.
Cool. There we go. All right, Marcelino with the first question. When Flashpoint and Crisis on Infinite Earths was happening, people were hoping that the events would retcon or erase all the bad writing moments in Arrowverse, like retconning Laurel's death so she doesn't die, rewriting the bad seasons, make the continuity flow better and not make people obligated to watch past seasons of shows, and so much more. How come the writers didn't take advantage of both situations and try and correct a lot of the complaints that have been piling up for years that fans had? Did they even say in any interviews why they didn't go in that direction? One theory I hear people bring up why they didn't correct their mistake was because they didn't want to change what they written, because rewriting will just erase all their hard work. I don't know if I would agree with that theory per se, but it is a question worth asking, because I do recall, I don't remember if it was Berlanti or Guggenheim mentioned the idea that once we get the Crisis, like this was going to give people the opportunity to sort of change any character status quos or character or story arc sort of thing. And I don't really recall much, if anything. Maybe there's a couple of things that maybe you might be able to recall, Stuart, but I don't really recall them using it to their full advantage, even though the executive producers have mentioned, like, yeah, we've spoken with all the writers, and if there's other directions that they want to go, like, this is your sort of opportunity. What do you think about that, though? Have you heard if there's a reason? What would you speculate as to why they didn't?
I think the reason, so the one big change that I can think of, well, I guess kind of a couple. There was there one? No, the only one I can think of at the moment is Supergirl. Supergirl had the change with Lex Luthor, essentially with making him loved by everyone on the planet instead of hated. So that, and then on The Flash, it was so weird because the first episode after Crisis implied everything was going to change because they showed like, oh, hey, all these villains that we faced in the past, they have a very different look to them, which made me think that they were going to come back with a more comic book accurate look to them and that kind of thing, but they ended up not going along with it. But I think the reason for this was because of when Crisis happened. I think that if Crisis had happened like before the start of every season for these shows, we could have gotten something like that. But I think because they happen in the middle of the season for every show, it would have been weird to like have a show where it's like you're building up one big storyline only to have Crisis erase it and then have your show be rebooted in the middle of the season. If I had to guess, I would assume that was probably the reason.
Yeah, you might be onto something there. I wish that they had done more. You know, I don't necessarily know if I would agree with every idea of like moments that people felt were bad decisions. Like, I know at the time people hated Laurel's death, but I didn't really care for it, so it didn't really affect me in that way. So in reality, I mean, if you look at it though, we kind of got Laurel back. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so even though they didn't bring her back from the dead, they still managed to work around it and bring her back in some capacity. So that was completely fine with me. You know, sometimes you're not going to be able to erase everything, but it would have been like, I don't necessarily know if I would have needed them to erase everything, but some changes on some characters I think really would have went a long way. And, you know, I know that you mentioned the idea that they didn't want to feel like they had to reboot in the middle of the season, and that might be fair, but I think they could have tease that something's changed, and then in the beginning of the upcoming seasons, that's when things feel a little bit fresher and brand new because of the moments on Crisis, because that's what the point of the Crisis was originally supposed to do, was to reboot and relaunch. And the fact that it just felt like, I don't want to say a blip on the radar, it clearly was a big monumental event, but it just didn't feel like it had the long-lasting ramifications that the comic book did, and it just felt like at the end of the day it was just another crossover event for the CW, and I think that's where it really kind of fell by the wayside. So to a certain extent, Marcelino, I would agree with you. I think they should have done more, taken more of an effort to actually fix some things and just give us new perspectives and new story arcs instead of just continuing along with the same old. He says Power Rangers Hyperforce was praised by the fandom for trying something new, and the cast say they want to do a season 2. Now, I don't know how table RPGs work, so my assumption is that if the cast want to do more seasons, they can just do them without having the higher ups telling them no. There are no restrictions by budget, scheduling, and licensing issues. I don't know how or why a billion-dollar company would care about a table RPG, so technically part of the company. It's technically part of the company, but at the same time, it's not plagiarism. And I don't think there would be any legal troubles if they went with it.
I would say, so there would. You're right about like
right?
there not being. Yeah, there wouldn't be any like legal troubles, but I don't think it wouldn't be necessarily a no budget thing, because the production that they had for Hyperforce was, you know, pretty big for a table RPG, and the fact that they had multiple cameras and they had like actors like, you know, that you know are currently looking for work. And I mean, like Peter Sudarso, I know he's definitely an active actor at the moment, whether he does like fan films or like he's looking for actual like work in Hollywood. I know that he's currently active, so to have him like, you know, be part of a series like this does cost money. And then also for Paul, I always forget how to pronounce his last name, Schreier or something like that, but you know, the actor that plays Bulk, for him, I know that he doesn't do any work as an actor anymore, but he still does a lot of work on film sets. So again, like if you're going to take people away from their job, you got to pay them for that. So I think that's kind of like the initial reason why it's hard to get a budget for season 2, is because you got to pay for their time to be on the set. As fun as it is, and I'm sure they enjoy doing it, you know, they still got to feed their families and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's probably why they haven't and the reason I don't think they've done it on Zoom is because I think they want to keep that high production. I think, you know, if they do it on Zoom, not that it would be bad, it just wouldn't be as eye-catching as it is when they're all together in the same room. You're not able to have like kind of the same banter with each other, you know, over Zoom as you are in like the same room. And not to mention the camera quality just isn't quite what it could be, you know. I think if they're doing a season 2, they want it to look production-wise as good as season 1. Oh, I think you're muted.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I agree with you there. He says, do any of you watch the YouTube channel Jubilee? If not, if you don't know what Jubilee is, it's a channel where they gather people of different lifestyles, ideologies, political affirmations, and try and see if they can find common ground between the opposing groups. Another segment they do is to get a couple of people on the same party and see if they truly agree on everything. That's kind of cool. I kind of dig that. Maybe I'll give it a look. See. He said, Marcel says, well, how come they can't just do RPGs through home via Zoom?
Yeah. Well, that was the one I answered earlier.
Yeah. Peg C, what's up, Peg C? What are your initial thoughts on Friday the 13th franchise?
Why would you ask me that? That's a huge can of worms for me. Man, I'll give you my super fast thoughts on every Friday the 13th movie. Really like the first one. Second one's pretty good. Third one's also pretty good. I love that that's the one that gives Jason his iconic look. Fourth one is my all-time favorite. Fifth one I thought was okay. It definitely felt like they were gonna go in a new direction with the franchise, only to completely go in a complete backwards direction with 6. Seventh one I barely remember. Eighth one really bad. Ninth one really bad. 10th one Jason X, so bad it's good. Freddy versus Jason, freaking amazing. I definitely recommend watching that if you're a horror fan or just like a fan of fun, cheesy action movies. Watch it. And then the remake is very forgettable.
I don't really have a big relationship with Friday the 13th movies. I've maybe seen 2 or 3 of them, maybe if a handful of times, if that. I haven't really kept up with any of the more original stuff, like recent stuff. So yeah, I'm like, I would be completely okay with a new reboot of Friday the 13th, so I can kind of get involved in it. I think when I was younger, growing up in New York, I maybe watched the first like 1 or 2, maybe the first 3 years ago, but it's been forever. I don't really have a big connection to Friday the 13th. But I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of it if they did them well.
Yeah.
Can a live-action series Spider-Man or Incredible Hulk work this time, since it hasn't been done since the 70s and when Super Sentai did it for Japanese Spider-Man? We're about to find out with Noir, the Amazon Prime period piece starring Nicolas Cage is going to be playing Spider-Man Noir. So this is going to be our very first live-action TV series for anything Spider-Man related. So I think if there's anybody that you can do, like out of the 2, I think Spider-Man's going to be a lot easier than Incredible Hulk right now. I just think if you're going to do Incredible Hulk, the budget's going to be probably insane, or they're going to cut some corners where maybe the effects don't look as good. And I just don't know if I need an Incredible Hulk television series. I think the world of Spider-Man is just much more compelling to me. So I would say give me a live action Spider-Man. I think that's what they're definitely working towards, Lord and Miller, and our first taste of that is going to be the Spider-Man Noir series. So one is definitely coming for sure.
I wouldn't mind a Incredible Hulk prequel series, a prequel to specifically the 2008 movie. If it's similar to the TV show that was back in the 70s, where it's just basically Bruce Banner on the run, and that's kind of the excuse of why they're able to do it on a TV budget, because he doesn't become the Hulk too often, and when he does, it's more of a really bad thing. It's never to fight other monsters. It's basically it's because he literally can't help himself. And for Spider-Man, I know this would never happen, but if they ever wanted to do a reboot Super Sentai series with that version of Spider-Man again, I'm all for it. I would love to see that.
I love it. Were you a fan of the animated TV show Animaniacs? Yeah.
Hell yes.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of it growing up as a kid. And then lastly, I don't know if you talked about this yet. What are your thoughts on Like a Dragon, Yakuza live action series coming to Amazon Prime this fall? I've never even heard of that. Like a Dragon?
I didn't know they were doing that. I've been told that I need to get into Yakuza because I used to love Shenmue on the Sega Dreamcast, and people tell me that Yakuza is just like that. So at some point, I really should start that game franchise at some point.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. So maybe I'll look into it. Next up we've got Doomsday. What's up, Doomsday? He says, have you noticed that in Boom Boomger, Mira is the only person who wears different colors other than pink, whereas Taya, Shishiro, Joe, and Gemba are literally wearing the exact same colors in every episode. Yeah, I did pick that up when it comes to Mira. Speaking of which, I need to get back into Boom Boomger, man. I have not watched an episode in like a month's time. I think they're on episode 18, maybe 19 this weekend. I'm not quite sure, but I definitely need to go ahead and jump back on board. They did reveal the additional ranger, the purple ranger in Boom Boomger a couple of weeks ago. So I do want to see how he plays a role in regards to the chemistry for the crew, because I've always been a really big fan of how the cast works alongside one another and their characters together. So the addition of anybody new always kind of worries me in regards to, like, is it going to throw off the team chemistry? So I do want to go ahead and try and do my best to do a little bit of catch up here this week if I certainly can. I think for me too, Boom Boomger doesn't feel like it's a must watch for me every week, unfortunately. You know, like I don't know if it's hyperbole or if people are just doing their best to really promote this show, but I've seen people say this is like peak Sentai, and I just do not agree. I just do not agree with them in that regards, mostly because the villains alone, I've seen so much better villains, and I think in order for it to be peak Super Sentai for me, you need not only great heroes but great villains as well, and the villains have just been a little bit laughable to me. And while I love the characters and I enjoy their arcs and the story at times, it's just a good show for me. It's not one that I feel like I need to come back for more next week. But if some people feel that way, that it's peak Sentai, you know what? I'm not gonna crap on your enjoyment. I'm hoping that you're really enjoying Boom Boomger. I just don't feel that same way, but it is a series that I definitely want to finish and certainly come back to. So hopefully within the next couple of days, I'll definitely have some more Boom Boomger reviews for you guys.
I'm so sorry. I will be right back. I gotta go check on something.
Yeah, no problem. Doomsday says, if it could just be me, but do you feel Jen from Time Force is starting to become an overrated Pink Ranger? No, I personally don't know. I mean, maybe she just hasn't gotten the praise and stuff that she had before. I mean, we did have Hunter Dino really kind of take over. Hunter Dino, excuse me, really take over when she was Pink Ranger, now turning into like the Red Ranger. So, look, whether or not people have other Time Force Pink Rangers ahead of her, maybe, but I don't know if I can ever call Jen overrated in that regard. So for me personally, no. Would you be surprised at all if the creators behind Boom Boomger were in fact inspired by Fast and the Furious franchise due to the references in the show? I would not be surprised at all. I am kind of curious if even in some interviews, if they've mentioned where their influences for the show have come from. But if they were to say Fast and the Furious, it would not surprise me at all. Like I would almost think that they were inspired by Fast and the Furious and other elements as well, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Do they refer to each other as a family?
No. I don't think anybody's like family. I mean, maybe they are. They seem relatively close, but they're not related in that regards. Or, but yeah, maybe they do.
You know what? Season finale. I bet you that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna be like for family.
For family. Blossom says, guys, do you think it's weird that I look Power Rangers through the eyes of a child? No. I didn't experience the series and its magic till I was 16 years old. So there you have it. I mean, I was in where was I? I was in high school for sure. I can't remember if it was when did the series debut?
93.
Okay, so no, I wasn't in I definitely was not in high school. I was definitely in elementary school, because I remember I had to be like 11, maybe around that time. Yeah, like I was like 10 or 11 when it came out. I remember us being on the playground, and my friend Brian, he used to make us morphers out of like paper. Like, I don't know how this kid like paper maché'd the shit out of this thing, but he would literally take like notebook paper and like fold it in such a way, and then he would draw the morpher designs and the creatures on the front, and we would literally in like playground time, we would go outside and we all have our morphers with us that we could like pull out and morph from our paper, our notebook paper that he wound up folding and stuff. I mean, it was unbelievable. But you know, so not everybody comes into Power Rangers at different ages for sure. If you came in at 16, ain't nothing wrong with that. You know, I mean, you work with kids now, you know, you write children's books sort of thing. So, you know, looking through Power Rangers through that particular lens makes absolute sense to me.
Definitely. You know, I do that too, because I feel like if I were to look at it, you know, too much as like the point of view of an adult, I'll ask stupid questions like that, like, you know, why don't they just use the Megazord to like end every fight in the beginning? Because it's the rule of the Power Rangers. Well, why is that a rule? You know, a lot of stupid questions like that. And it's best to just watch it without those questions in mind, and then you can just really enjoy it for what it is. Yeah, as for me, you know, it's funny because you bring up you were in elementary school when the show came out. I was cum when that show came out.
Yeah, that just shows how old I am, bro, for sure.
Or how young I still am.
Yeah, yeah, that too. Let's see here. We got, she says, do you remember the past writers up to Black RX appearing in Masked Rider? She says, since they appeared in the Saban era show, you think I could have the Galactic Council and Dex himself summon them from time to time in our adaptation for Superhero Senkai. Do you remember the past writers up to Black RX appearing in Masked Rider?
I've actually never seen Masked Rider.
Oh, really? Because I don't think, I do recall watching it, but I only watched it as a kid. I've never revisited it ever since then, so I don't unfortunately remember Blossom, so I can't really give you a good answer in that regards.
Because I saw his debut like in the season 3 premiere Power Rangers, and oh my god, I hope that actor got better in his own show. But yeah, that's pretty much as far as my knowledge goes in Masked Rider.
Let's see here. We also have Jessica Fryman. What do you think Netflix Netflix decided to cancel the Power Ranger reboot series? And do you think the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise could have a female protagonist one day? What do you think about that last portion?
I think it should. I'm surprised it hasn't, because I know that like it's kind of become like Power Rangers, where like every couple of years there's a new show. So I'm surprised they haven't had a female protagonist yet.
What do you think? All right, so what do you think maybe the reason behind Netflix deciding to cancel the Power Ranger reboot series is for? Or what do you think of Netflix deciding to cancel the Power Ranger reboot series? I mean, look, I'm under the impression that they canceled it because it's not what they paid for, you know? And if it's not something you paid for, to me, it makes sense to kind of split and part ways. You know, I think some of the revelations that have been coming out is like, look, Chris Cox, the current CEO of Hasbro, just does not have the same vision that Brian Goldner had for the property. You know, Brian Goldner's vision was much more expansive and expensive. You know, it felt very much like he was ready to devote that type of time into crafting something cinematic and expanding on the world, which I personally still think to this day was a good decision on his part, based off all the cinematic universes that have certainly been kind of springing up left and right. You know, I think he was, I don't want to say ahead of his time, but I think he had the right mentality of what he wanted to do. But Chris Cox just comes from a different world altogether. I think he's like a Dungeons and Dragons guy, you know, like a tabletop RPG type of dude. And so, you know, his experiences are going to go to other things. And, you know, when you get new management that comes in and are like, hey, we have a new game plan, and you're at Netflix and you're thinking, that's not what we agreed upon, right? Like, we've been waiting for this reboot series, and instead we've gotten Cosmic Fury and Once and Always. And so, you know, I don't blame Netflix for wanting to pass. I don't think that's what they signed up for, and I don't think that's what some of us signed up for. So if you're not going to be able to deliver on what Netflix was hoping to deliver on, yeah, it's just time to move on. So the most talented man in the world is back. What's up? He says, in my opinion, Operation Overdrive, while many people didn't like it, it wasn't as atrocious compared to Megaforce and Ninja Steel. I always believed that Andrew Hartford paid the Rangers to become a team. Each ranger was chosen by their skill, so they operated like a private army, making the most elite and qualified team to get a Corona or Aurora. Ronnie equals a race car driver, Rose equals college professor, Dax equals underappreciated stuntman, and Will spy for hire. I love the whole team of Rangers working for a billionaire in order to search for an ancient crown around the world. Indiana Jones was very popular at the time. Having 5 people already on their own career path being paid to become Rangers was very similar to Time Force, when Mr. Collins tried to pay the Rangers to work for him and betray Wes as their leader in favor of Eric. While it was a little late in the series, I really thought the reveal of Mac being a cyborg was really cool and unexpected. Even showed that Andrew Hartford was a workaholic, where he didn't have the time in his life to meet someone and have a family. I like when shows gave plot twists. I did wish that we had a little bit more drama between Mac and his father after reveal. Overdrive, to me and many other fans, was a pretty good series. The only thing lacking was the villains all wanting to take over the world once they found the Corona Aurora. Though having them as villains from different factions and not getting along was really cool. The team deciding to quit being Rangers and once in a Ranger after they were temporarily replaced by veterans was a great reminder that they never really wanted to be Rangers in the first place. They only decided to return to Andrew Hartford because they felt guilty about the decision to leave because they no longer had their Ranger powers. So while Overdrive may not be everyone's favorite season, it was still really solid for what it was compared to the Neil Saban era. I still have favorite episodes from that show. Overdrive to me would be a B- series. What do you think, Stu?
Here's the thing. It's not my favorite. I think in execution, it definitely fails in a lot of areas, but I give this show an A for ambition. Because yes, they felt like this was the show where they really wanted to do a lot. And I think had Disney given them more resources, you know what's funny? Okay. I think if this writing staff was working with a Neo Saban budget, it actually could have been a great series. But unfortunately, they were working with that Disney budget, which Disney, even more than Neo Saban, was really constantly just trying to cut corners at every chance they had. And I think that the show never had the chance to really develop into like something that what it really wanted to be. So I think that this was a show with potential, ambition, and unfortunately was just so poorly executed because of budget and some of the Disney what would you call it, like the Disney standards that they had at the time, such as like the biggest thing that's so hard for me to watch with this show is like the editing and like the fight scenes. Like they're like just such a mess pretty much in Overdrive. Like you could kind of argue that for Power Rangers SPD, but even then SPD felt a little cleaner than what they did with Overdrive.
It's been a minute since I've visited Overdrive, so I do want to go back and rewatch it at some point in time in my life if I ever do. But I gotta say, Most Talented Man in the World, if like anybody's convinced me to give it a rewatch, I think you certainly have. It sounds a lot more compelling, I feel like, coming from you in the way that you kind of described it. So I kind of, it's been a minute. I literally only did like one quick watch of it, skimmed through, because I think a part of me was like, I got to get to RPM. And so a part of me, I don't think I allowed myself to give it justice. So it's definitely worth a rewatch for sure. But thank you so much, everybody, for certainly participating. I'm just going to refresh this one more time, but I think we got everybody. Yeah, we certainly did. Wonderful, man. So thank you, everybody, for all your live viewer questions. As of right now, next weekend will be the 7th of July. I don't think I have any other big plans or anything like that. So certainly expect at least a live episode of APlus Hero Report next weekend for you guys. I will try and work on some Boom Boomger content for you guys this week. We continue to have our WrestleManiacs podcast here for you guys. For Raw, NXT, SmackDown, if you're big wrestling fans. If you want our Star Wars reviews, we drop our Acolyte live review discussions every Wednesday live at 10 p.m. Central Time. We give ourselves a day to go ahead and actually watch the episode, maybe watch it a couple times, take notes, think about it before we get together as a group and certainly talk about it. We might be having a new episode review for My Adventures of Superman. I don't know if that's this week or if there's any additional episodes or not, but hopefully Stuart will knock that out. and then maybe some movie reviews for you guys this week if I get a chance to check out either Inside Out or A Quiet Place this weekend. But we'll definitely have plenty of content certainly headed your guys' way. And yeah, man, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. You got anything planned this weekend, Stuart? And where can people find you on social media?
I probably am going to either today or tomorrow do some streaming, so keep an eye out for that.
Our Twitch channel.
Oh yeah, on APlus Opinions Twitch channel. It'll also, I'm gonna try to make sure it streams on both our Twitch and our Instagram and our Twitter, basically. And then I might actually just also add my own personal Instagram page to that as well, just for fun. So you guys can see me streaming there. It'll either, I think I'm going to do Knights of the Old Republic because I just re-downloaded that game on my computer. Been wanting to replay that game for a while. It's a really fun RPG, so I'll do that. And then, yeah, as for My Adventures with Superman, that'll come out like later this week because this week's episode is going to be kind of, it's one of those episodes that takes place during the exact same time as the previous episode, but you're watching it through a new perspective. So I figured I'm just gonna do those two reviews together as one, like I've been doing like with some of my other My Adventures with Superman reviews. And then also lastly, probably not this week, probably next week, I do want to eventually do a review for That 90s Show season 2. Which I'm going to call season 2. It is not part 2. The reason they called it part 2 was because Netflix is just a bunch of cheap a-holes and they didn't want to renegotiate contracts. So I'm calling it season 2 of That 90s Show. So expect that hopefully not this week, but the week after.
Fantastic, man. And if you want to follow us on social media, at APlus Opinions everywhere on social media. Very active over on our YouTube channel, clearly, as well as our Facebook page. On our Facebook page, that's where we post all news throughout the week, trailers, posters, exclusive images, reels, get caught up all throughout the week, stay updated. And then we usually grab 6 topics from there to certainly talk about here at the end of the week on APlus Hero Report. We do have a TikTok at Hero Report if you want to go ahead and check it out. If you like your forum communities, there is a link to our Discord community in the description box below. Certainly follow us there. And yeah, follow us everywhere on social media. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button along with that bell notification so you know anytime we drop a brand new video or go live. But Stuart, that's going to do it for us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll certainly see you next week. But until then, do us a big favor as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.